young people to participate and to find careers, meaningful and successful careers within these organizations. So I hope that is evident by our discussions here today, and I'm looking forward to the engaging with our young people. Thank you.
And Tariq, what can we expect from today's session for the second half? And also, what does it mean for you to be leading the way for the youth engagement within the forum?
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, SG. So the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, estimates that over 75% of persons ages 17 to 24 are using the internet actively. Though this portion of youth, as well as those a little older, because we have to expand our age a little bit, are often underrepresented at Internet Governance Fora. The CTU recognized this as a key gap in representation and has been engaging us since last year, not even in the Caribbean, but all the way in Kigali, Rwanda. The initial discussions to having this youth-led Internet Governance Forum under and through the support of the CTU was held. And so we're here today with the second ever Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum. The first one was last year. It was well attended and the feedback was amazing, which has inspired and led us to continue this initiative. Quite apart from the discussions and the presentations that we have today, a key output of this session is a youth action plan, which is a very brief document that captures some areas in which we, the youth, would like to take charge in from the end of CYIGF2 leading up to CYIGF3, one of which includes registering our CYIGF as an NRI, instantiating us as a body within the UN IGF. So with that, I would like to thank you all for joining us today, and I hope that we have a very good and interactive session. Thanks, everyone.
Warm round of applause for Mohammed and SG Taylor. All right, so the youth want to make a difference with their IGF. So brace yourselves for an invigorating presentation, Youth IG Action Plan, delivered by Mr. Tyler Seudath, a catalyst for change within the CYIGF. Tyler?
Okay, let me share my screen. So good day, everyone. My name is Tyler Seudath. I'm a member of the CYIGF2 Planning Committee, and today I'm going to be presenting the Youth Action Plan. So we're going to go through the CYIGF background, like how it came about, the aims and objectives of CYIGF, as well as the action plan curated by the Youth Committee. And then we're going to have a question and answer segment. So CTU Secretary General, as well as Deputy Secretary General, met with Caribbean delegates at the Generation Connect Youth Summit in 2022, and they were asked to host the first ever CYIGF, which took place last August. It was considered to be a memorable and successful one due to the overwhelming positive reviews we got. And here we are today in CYIGF2. So CYIGF recognizes and considers CTU's strategic areas for internet governance, which include infrastructure for broadband connectivity, internet technical infrastructure and operations management, legal framework and enforcement, internet content development and management, public awareness and capacity building, and research. CYIGF aims to bridge gaps in youth representation and participation in regional internet governance initiatives and fora. So some of the objectives include engaging youths in regional discussions on internet governance, that is facilitating networking opportunities and collaboration among youths in the internet governance sphere. Also, we would want to build the skills of the youths in the internet governance sphere, both technical and non-technical, and strengthen and boost regional development through collaboration. And lastly, develop a regional youth action plan for next year's CYIGF. So here are the 5 action areas or proposed milestones curated by the CYIGF Planning Committee. 1, registering CYIGF as an NRI, a national and regional initiative with UN IGF. Developing capacity of Caribbean youth and IG through webinars, participating in the ideation and development of digital skill building initiatives, participating in digital divide discussions and contributing to policy development, and lastly, encouraging research on and data collection for internet measurements and usage statistics. So firstly, registering CYIGF as a national and regional initiatives with the UNIGF. So registering CYIGF as an NRI with UNIGF will strengthen youth participation by facilitating networking opportunities within and outside the Caribbean region, while allowing CYIGF to develop its own governance framework and have access to funding for travels. Also, as a registered NRI, we would also foster global and regional engagement. As mentioned, there are a lot of internet governance forums occurring yearly, hosted by LACNIC, ARIN, and ICANN, and being able to actively engage youths in these discussions is beneficial for them. And lastly, secondly, we would facilitate regional policy ideas by being able to sit with the youth committee and brainstorm and develop ideas for harmonizing regional internet governance policies is beneficial for the internet governance sphere. And lastly, motivate international collaborations. We would also collaborate with other youth networks such as ITU's Generation Connect and even IEEE's Young Professionals. We would increase the awareness of Caribbean youth on internet governance. So there are a lot of young people that don't know, they have not been exposed to internet governance and they don't know the importance of it. So CYIGF sees value in coordinating awareness campaigns targeted towards youths. So we make them aware of participation in IGs, of course, advocating about events in the IG sphere, make them aware of the internet's role in regional development. Of course, we know the internet provides an array of knowledge. It fosters entrepreneurship and drives innovation, in turn enhancing regional development, both socially and economically. We would also make them aware of the career and capacity building opportunities within the IG sector by being able to network in events such as the IG forums. You are engaging with professionals and as such being exposed to a lot of opportunities. And of course, there are a lot of capacity building opportunities. ITU Academy courses actually provide courses on internet governance and digital skills. And lastly, advocate for responsible and safe internet use. Participating in the ideation and development of digital skill building initiatives. Of course, digital skills are vital in the Caribbean as they empower individuals to harness the internet's potential for regional development through knowledge, entrepreneurship, and innovation opportunities. The CYIGF committee aims to raise awareness and provide recommendations for enhancing digital capacity. As a youth perspective is valuable for strengthening the Caribbean digital ecosystem because we are the leaders of tomorrow, right? Participating in digital divide discussions and contributing to policy development. So there have been ongoing discussions on digital divide for the past 20 years. Everyone wants a meaningful connectivity, but there are a lot of divides that prevent this, and these include access. So there are a lot of areas that do not have, there's a lack of availability of physical infrastructure, and this prevents people from getting access to broadband services, and as such, they may lack digital skills. Also, affordability. Most people may not be able to afford digital tools or even broadband services. Age is another one. We need to consider that the digital industry more cater for the wants and needs of the younger generation, and sometimes the older generation may not benefit from this. And of course, bandwidth, because bandwidth tends to differ from country to country. So bridging the digital divide, how CYIGF plans to do this? So we would represent and advocate for Caribbean youth in digital discussions, provide Caribbean youth perspectives on IG issues, develop policies, of course, engaging with stakeholders to fill the gaps where they exist on Caribbean IG topics. Again, one of our objectives is to boost regional collaboration. In this way, we can exchange knowledge and share best practices. and even collaborate with local and regional agencies like spectrum management agencies to gather data and analyze statistics on digital divide. And lastly, encouraging research on and data collection for internet measurements and usage statistics. So the Caribbean region is considered to be the second most disaster-prone region, right? And because of this, when a disaster occurs, you can have a lot of network outages and even a disruption in services. And because of this, so in order to prevent this, it is critical to have a resilient internet infrastructure. So how can internet governance help in this case? Well, we have to consider 4 aspects: rules, policies, standards, and practices. An example of a rule was by the ITUs to define and enforce minimum values of QoS parameters. CTU recommended policy proposed by the CTUs to ensure sustained production of metrics, which include quality and usage. And a standard could be TLS and IPsec, which are security protocols. And a recommended practice by the CTU is to use DNSSEC for routing protection. So using this, of course, the foundation, we can be able to collaborate with spectrum management agencies and research agencies to collect and analyze data on internet measurements, both QoS and QoE, internet usage, service availability, and digital skills. Of course, the information can help policymakers and regulators make informed decisions. Thank you. And I may now entertain any questions.
Are we going to be facilitating the questions now or after the panel? After the panel?
I can do, yeah, no problem. After.
No problem. Can we get a round of applause for Mr. Tyler Seudath? We are going to move right into the upcoming panel discussion. So gear up for a thought-provoking roundtable discussion on leveraging ICTs for Caribbean youth development ahead of the Global Digital Compact. Guiding this discussion is our moderator, Ms. Jael Goddard, member of the CYIGF. Can we have a round of applause for her? And our panelists for this discussion are Mr. Filippo Pierozzi, I think I got it, I hope, Associate Expert of the UN Office of the Secretary General Envoys on Technology. We have Mr. Tracy Hackshaw, the Director of TTMAG. We have Miss Abriana Cooper of CaribbeanGirlsHack Intern from UTECH. And we have the lovely Miss Maria Divina OBrien, Google WomenTechMakers TT and Women in Tech Caribbean. Can we get a round of applause for them? Go ahead. The floor is yours, Jael.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be your moderator today. Let's embark on a journey of exploration, discussion, and insights with our esteemed panel of experts. You can kindly visit the CTU's website to find their bios of all of our panelists. Together, they'll offer a regional, intersectional, youth-centered approach on the topic at hand. Questions will be allowed at the end of the session. So without further ado, let's begin this engaging dialogue and uncover the valuable perspective that our speakers have to offer. So first, I'd like to offer a question to all of our panelists. As we move towards the Global Digital Compact, what specific opportunities do you foresee for the Caribbean youth in terms of ICT-related innovations and solutions?
Maybe I can
Mr. Hackshaw, would you like to begin? You want me to repeat it?
No, I can. That's fine.
Okay.
All right. Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for having me in your session. So I think, so obviously with the youth role in ICT and internet governance going forward, I do think there's a serious role that youth can play in sustainability. So us adults, us the older heads have come and, messed up the place with all of our great ideas and our great inventions. But we've left a legacy of e-waste, terrible environmental impacts, high carbon usage in terms of data centers and so on. So I think for the youth, going forward, it'll be great if I could see, as part of the whole GDC process, that a focus on sustainability and, of course, environmental impact reduction is where the youth take this journey forward. Obviously, as young people utilizing the technology, you are the main users of what the adults have put forward, as they say, in terms of social media and so on. There's an opportunity here for you to do a lot of activism, a lot of advocacy, and certainly in terms of building back better, as they say, from scratch. I'm really hopeful that you can go forward with green solutions. So integrate the green and the digital economy. Look at the circular economy and see how best you can take that forward, and work with the United Nations bodies who are doing the GDC, as well as other stakeholders in terms of really driving a sustainability agenda, sustainability platform going forward. As small and developing states, as small islands, as the Caribbean, we are probably most at risk with environmental challenges, with disaster reduction challenges, obviously in terms of our rising sea levels and our eroding coastlines, and so on. All of those things have a major antecedent in high carbon activities. And I'm really hopeful that one of the major thrusts that you could take going forward is working with us as the older generation to ensure that the digital economy is certainly more sustainable and more green going forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hackshaw. And I see you mentioned activism, and Ms. O'Brien's face kind of lights up a bit. So we can lead right into you and you can give me your views.
I want to thank Tracy, who I think has always, been an advocate and a huge agent for including youth in the activities that are going on. I do think for me, young people or youth or, any person within that category, they don't just need the opportunity to be included, they need to be given meaningful leadership opportunity. And we don't just want to have, conferences where we have young people talking about ideas and programs and things that they want to do. I do think that the activism that is happening really leads to the meaningful engagement of youth when it comes to policy making, when it comes to leadership, government, whether it comes to the way that budgets are being distributed, to make sure that their voice isn't just heard, but also counted when it comes to the decisions that are being made. So that's why I lit up, because youth activism very often, I think, doesn't get as much respect as it deserves in the policy making and the leadership aspects of change within the decisions that are being made. So that's my input.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to you, Ms. Cooper, Mr. Pierozzi.
Sure, and congrats to both of you. Full marks on your Italian, Caron. You both nailed the name, so well done to you. So we are based in New York at the office of the Tech Envoy, and we're providing support to Run and Sweden. They are the co-facilitators. So we are, so to say, almost the referee in the Global Digital Compact process. So maybe my observation is not going to be on the content, because the content is what we want to be shaped also from the youth, but on the process. So we feel that the great contribution and also the great opportunity for youth in the Caribbean is, again, to push the agenda, is what Maria was just saying. So just not to have a merely representative role function in some fora, but also to shape the agenda. And shaping the agenda might also be pushing the international community, pushing the member states at all levels to flag several issues that might be, for instance, what Tracy was mentioning about sustainability. And also, and this is my final remark on the role that they could contribute, is to show policymakers the connection between different items. We don't have to think in silos, and we heard this over and over again. And maybe the youth can have a dynamic role in showing us and in showing member states how technology has to do with climate change, how technology has to do with human rights, and so on and so forth. So the role in pushing the agenda and in connecting the several issues that the Secretary General of the United Nations put forward for the Global Digital Compact is going to be very, very important.
Thank you. And I think it's really important because we need to not only understand, but really put into action that youths are the leaders of today. So I'm really glad that we have Ms. Cooper on the panel with us to really give that youth perspective.
Thank you. So as a youth myself, the opportunities that I foresee for the Caribbean are inclusive of digital transformation. As technology continues to evolve, there is a growing need for digital transformation across the different sectors: healthcare, education, finance, agriculture, sustainability, as Mr. Hackshaw was saying before. The transformation could be done by developing innovative software, applications, and platforms tailored to the region's specific needs. Another opportunity that I foresee is educational technology. Educational technology has the potential to improve access to quality education in remote and underserved areas. E-learning platforms, educational apps, digital content that cater to the region's unique cultural and linguistic diversity could be developed. I foresee mentorship opportunities. I foresee quality education funding and supportive policies that basically encourage entrepreneur and innovation amongst our young people.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Cooper. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to lead into specific questions. So first up, we have Mr. Hackshaw. The Caribbean Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, MAG, plays a crucial role in shaping regional internet governance. How can MAG actively involve youth voices in internet governance processes to ensure their concerns are heard and addressed?
Thank you very much. So I'm going to be a little bit controversial here. So I don't really believe having a youth internet governance forum on its own is the way to go. I believe you can have, yes, you have a youth IGF, but there must be a way for the group to integrate into the wider internet governance discussions. It doesn't make sense simply having the youth forum and then having an adult forum and having them separate. There must be a way for the youth issues to be placed on the agenda. As a matter of fact, mainstreamed in the agenda, and not through tokenism, just having one person on a seat on a table of 9 people, as the case may be. I really believe that for the youth issues to really resonate and to make a difference, the multi-stakeholder group needs to really integrate the youth issues into the wider, larger program. So even if the topic is AI, as an example, there must be a youth perspective on that in the programming of any internet governance issues that will move forward. Furthermore, as the Caribbean participates in internet governance activities, whether it be in conferences or writing position papers or making decisions, you would obviously realize that having the youth separate in a separate room is not helpful. Having the youth at the same table with everybody else is the direction we need to take. So as I sort of started controversially, I mean, I'm not saying don't have a youth IGF. I'm saying it cannot be the end, the be all and end all. So for example, this session that you have here today, you must take what you're doing here today and roll it up into what's happening before today and what's happening after, and find a way to get involved, stay involved, and make your voices heard. Do not let yourself be put into a room or a separate session. Get involved and really make your voices heard. And I say that everywhere I go with any IGF or any conference, and I believe it works well. So I think we are all adults. We are all willing to hear from what you have to say. And I'm firmly of the opinion that if you ask and you make your case heard, you will get a seat at the table, and not just a token seat, but a real seat in decision making and in planning and designing. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hackshaw. That's really helpful as we move forward and we develop as we go along. So jumping straight to Mr. Pierozzi. As the UN Technology Envoy Office, what specific strategies or support do you plan to offer to Caribbean nations to empower and involve youth in shaping their digital future?
That's a good question, and maybe a broader point on the global digital compact, on where we stand. This can be too much of an explanation, but just to give the audience where we are, probably already, but and what we do in the office. We are moving towards the negotiation phase of the Global Digital Compact that will start probably in early 2024, and the process is at the moment with the co-facilitators, Rwanda and Sweden. As the Office of the Technology Envoy, we are doing policy. That is not just expectation management, but it's just to clarify which is our role. So the contribution that we can have and we want to have for youth and for the Caribbean region is to bring clearer policy guidance that everyone can use. And I'm gonna make very concrete examples. So one project that my team is involved on is called the Common Blueprint on Digital Transformation. There will be an opportunity to have an end-to-end guidance for member states and especially for small countries like the SIDS and like a lot of Caribbean countries to have a digital transformation strategy that is inclusive, that has the participation of the whole society, and it can be an end-to-end process to address the several strands of digital transformation. When it comes more specifically to youth engagement, let me mention very briefly two initiatives. One is the initiative that the Secretary General proposed on the policy brief of the Global Digital Compact. That is the Digital Cooperation Forum. The idea of the Digital Cooperation Forum is to build on existing initiatives such as the IGF and to have an annual forum where all things around digital technologies, not just internet governance, can be discussed. And we are envisaging an active role for youth, and that could be the occasion where, thankfully the echo is faded now, so it's better. I can hear myself. Sorry about that. And that would be the occasion where youth can have their voice heard in just one forum. And maybe something else on artificial intelligence, that is the topic of the year and the topic of the day. The Secretary General is creating an AI advisory body that will be advising the United Nations on artificial intelligence. The call for nominations is open until the end of the month. And the body will be announced by the end of September, most likely. And I'll share the link in the chat. It would be great to have a lot of nominations from young people and from people from the Caribbean and the Caribbean youth. That would be one of the most active way in which the region and the youth of the region can actively contribute to what is policy development for the future and in all this discussion around AI and its governance. I'm going to share the link in the chat, but that is part of the concrete initiatives where we would really like to see an active engagement from young people and from the region, and we are working with the UN Youth Envoy on this. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Pierozzi. It's always great to hear of the opportunities, but we need to always remember a step further needs to go, because oftentimes a lot of youth aren't aware, like we spoke about earlier. So we need to also remember that in these discussions, how are we going to get the youths to become aware and to become engaged and close that divide. So Ms. Cooper, now we go on to you. Could you share specific initiatives or programs that your country has implemented to harness ICTs for youth development?
So my country, Jamaica, has implemented many programs and initiatives to harness ICTs for youth development. The Technology Advancement Program, TAP, is an initiative implemented by the Universal Service Fund that engages unattached youths aged 18 to 29 over a period of 12 months in ICT training and apprenticeship. A more popular one is eLearning Jamaica. The eLearning Jamaica program aims to enhance access to quality education through the integration of technology in schools. It involves providing schools with computer labs, digital content, and teacher training to improve digital literacy and educational outcomes. There is also the National ICT Strategy and Policy. Jamaica has developed a National ICT Strategy and Policy framework that outlines the country's vision for leveraging ICTs to drive economic growth, innovation, and social development. This framework guides implementation of various initiatives and programs. Even more recently, there has been work to establish internet access in 690 schools via the island-wide broadband network, which is projected for completion by the end of 2023-2024. Though there is still more that can be done to help, there is always more that can be done. I applaud my country for their efforts so far. Back to you.
Thank you, and I applaud you for participating and taking advantage of the initiatives that they have available. Okay, Ms. OBrien, what measures has your country taken to ensure that young people are actively engaged in shaping ICT policies that affect them directly?
So in Trinidad and Tobago, I do feel that we've always had a very strong youth leadership movement. I do feel that there's been a lot of inclusion of youth when it comes to conferences or stakeholder engagement opportunities, even by TTMAG or our Telecommunications Association, or even ourselves as Google WomenTechMakers or Google Developer Groups. Recently, the Ministry of Digital Transformation has had consultation, stakeholder consultation. I do feel that youth organizations or NGOs were also part of that. However, I do think there's a lot of work to be done, just as we were talking about earlier, when it comes to meaningfully engaging youth, when it comes to policy making. Stakeholder engagement, for me, is something that very often is like an initial phase of policy information or data gathering. However, we really need to start seeing young people being put in leadership positions where they have a vote, where they have the opportunity to inform decision making, not just influence decisions. And I do think that is the movement that you're seeing right now globally with adolescents and young adults. I do believe that one of the other things that is happening post COVID-19, as we know, young people, well, adolescents and youth were some of the most highly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic when it comes to their health, when it comes to opportunities, access to technology, all of these things. And I do feel that you're seeing a movement, including the UN and the WHO and other groups, to really give them the opportunity to have leadership and inclusion with policy making. So I do feel that you've seen a lot of stakeholder engagement with youth. We have a lot of youth leadership communities, a lot of youth that is being trained in ICT skills and career building initiatives when it comes to youth. However, when it comes to decision making and actual power, power for young people to have when it comes to what's happening with their digital future, there's a lot of work to be done.
Thank you. And I feel as well a lot of young persons, a lot of youth aren't involved in the conversation. I don't even think they know where to begin. It's all beyond just going on Facebook and Instagram. It's very new for them as well. So Mr. Hackshaw, we go back to you. As part of the Global Digital Compact, what mechanisms does MAG propose to strengthen collaboration between stakeholders to foster youth-led digital innovation and entrepreneurship in the Caribbean?
Thank you once again. I think the missing link, it's been mentioned several times, the idea of mentorship, and especially in entrepreneurship, the lack of mentorship in the region. If I were to be to make one recommendation, is that we need to build a cadre of really positive mentors in this space for young people and youth to actually drive the digital economy forward, internet governance issues, and so on. People in this room who are sitting around here need to step up and say, no, look, I'm willing to be a mentor. You yourself said, where do I find the opportunities? How do I know where to go, what to visit, etc.? So obviously you can search online and you can do what you need to do, but mentors will help. Mentors who have done it before, who have been successful or failed, and can tell you exactly what not to do. I think is a critical pathway forward. So if I have to make one recommendation, is to build a network of mentors that the Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum, the CYIGF, the CTU can work with young people to ensure that they find a great path forward in the internet governance space, in entrepreneurship, in the digital economy generally, and ready to find access to financing. Because as you know, we have all these hackathons and then it all falls away because there's no there's no sustainability of that either. Just do something, build a product, and then disappear. And I really dislike that kind of approach that we take in the region. So I really would like to see that change. And I think with mentorship and with sustainability measures built into programs like that, we can go forward. So I would like to see the multi-stakeholder group take those measures, go forward, and not do the same things over and over. Let's stop talking. Let's start acting. Let's start making things happen, make a difference now. And I don't want to come here next year and we talk about the same things. Let's talk about having a platform, mentorship platform that you have been working with over the last year and your successes, as opposed to what can we do. I don't like the what can we do discussion. Let's not put something in place. Let's just do it. Thanks.
Thank you. I love the call to action. Okay, so Mr. Pierozzi, the Global Digital Compact aims to foster global collaboration and partnerships to address digital challenges. How can the Caribbean region benefit from this initiative, particularly in the context of youth development?
Thank you. The first word that comes to mind is capacity development. Agree on some common principles at the global level in the Global Digital Compact can help bring together expertise from other regions, especially in a dynamic of South-South cooperation and North-South cooperation. In other words, there are several gaps that we need to address. One, for instance, we have a shortage of 1.5 million data scientists for the public good. Not data scientists as such, data scientists for the public good. We need to bundle together expertise coming from different countries, from different regions, and this is all more important for the Caribbean region that is a highly diverse, a lot of member states, and also different languages. And we need to bring that expertise together. This is something that the Global Digital Compact can help us doing. It can bring us lessons from other regions. It can bring experts from other regions or from other countries and apply them to the context. And that is going to be particularly important, again, for a region with an average age that is pretty young, and there is a lot of potential when it comes to using IC technology for the public goods, and also to address some of the vulnerability that the region might have, like exposure to natural disaster, as it was mentioned earlier on. I'm seeing also something in the chat. Let me jump back on artificial intelligence. Someone mentioned the AI advisory body and its participants. Again, this might be relevant in the dynamic. It was mentioned we must fund the advisory body. There will be funding opportunities. There will be funding opportunities for that. So how can the Global Digital Compact contribute? It can help closing this gap in ICT professionals for the public good. It can help youth being more engaged in the policy making on emerging areas, not just internet governance, but artificial intelligence, connectivity, and so on and so forth. And it can help. And this is something that Caribbean IGF stressed in the submission for the Global Digital Compact. It can help bring different experience, both within the region and from all over the world together. Thank you.
the constant topic that's coming up is not operating in silos and how important collaboration and partnership is. So, as we continue, Ms. Cooper, how do you see the Global Digital Compact benefiting Caribbean youths? And what specific contributions can young people make to this initiative?
Okay, so as mentioned before, the Global Digital Compact can benefit Caribbean youth by providing funding, resources, and opportunities to the Caribbean region, thus empowering young people to access education, training, and tools needed to thrive in the digital economy. A lot of persons in the Caribbean don't have access to devices. I've been fortunate enough to have access to internet connection, hoping that this meeting doesn't disconnect right now. But I've been fortunate to have access to internet connection and devices. A lot of Jamaicans and youth in the Caribbean overall are not as fortunate. Additionally, Caribbean youth may benefit from the Global Digital Compact by developing digital skills required for a rapidly evolving job market, including skills related to programming, data analytics, digital marketing, and much more. Regarding the contributions young people can make to the initiative, they can bring their unique perspectives, experiences, and creativity to the table. They can contribute fresh ideas, innovative solutions to global challenges, particularly those relevant to the region. Young people can play a role in advocating for policies that promote digital inclusion, privacy, and data protection. They can raise awareness about the importance of digital literacy and responsible technology use. And as mentioned before, aside from advocacy, the young people, we need a seat at the table. Our voices need to be heard. So as much as we're advocating, we need to be a part of the decision-making processes. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ms. O'Brien, we go quickly to you. We put in CTU on the hotspot here. How can the CTU collaborate with member states to create a conducive policy and regulatory environment for empowering youth through ICTs?
Thank you so much for that question. And I'm so excited to go just after Abriana because she mentioned all those amazing opportunities. And I do think that she's a perfect example of someone who has taken advantage of all of the opportunities that she's been given and taking leadership roles that are being presented to her over and over again. Abriana is so amazing. I just want to congratulate you and thank you. But the one thing that I want to say is that while there's mentorship opportunities, you can create programs, you can create, pilot programs or pilot projects around how you would include youth in leadership. While all of those explorations may take place, the most important thing that I see is that there needs to be some sort of oversight body that is evaluating the inclusion of youth. And as someone asked in the questions and answers section, inclusion of youth doesn't just mean inclusion of young people who are currently pursuing technology, but definitely opening up these opportunities and these platforms for influence and decision-making contributions to all persons of different abilities, different backgrounds, even different academic or skill-based areas. I do think that we have to make sure that young people are being included on all fronts, especially the inclusion of adolescents. It came up in a discussion that we were having earlier with a mental health program that we're doing for adolescents in Trinidad and Tobago. And the reason why adolescent inclusion is important is because most adolescents don't have a lot of decision-making power over their own life. It's really what they've been exposed to, what people are bringing to the table for them. So it's really important, I think, for us to have oversight on how we include young people, for there to be accountability with what promises people make to youth. And of course, for young people to be part of that oversight, perhaps not just monitoring and evaluation reports, but meaningful feedback and holding people accountable to the promises that they make young people when it comes to their inclusion. So that's my contribution.
Thank you. I just have one last question for you all. If you all can quickly, just in one sentence or two, summarize. What are your hopes and expectations for the future of Caribbean youth development in the context of the Global Digital Compact and the continued evolution of technology? Ms. Cooper, you can begin.
Okay, so I hope to see the Caribbean youth empowered by the Global Digital Compact to leverage evolving technologies for inclusive education, innovation, entrepreneurship, and sustainable solutions that drive regional growth and collaboration.
Thank you. Mr. O'Brien, you want to continue?
I'm hoping that what will come out of these engagements and, of course, consultations that are currently going on will be meaningful engagement and, of course, meaningful inclusion of youth when it comes to decision making, especially when it comes to budgets and investment, and as to how countries are investing money into programs for young people. I'm hoping that it will lead to more influence and power for young people when it comes to ICT and their digital futures.
Thank you. Mr. Pierozzi?
From a secretarial perspective, I would love to read the final text of the Global Digital Compact and to know that one sentence, one part was there because the youth in the Caribbean wanted that part to be there. And at the day-to-day level, I would love to talk with colleagues or external and to tell me, hold on, you should really listen to these people because they have something to say.
Thank you. Mr. Hackshaw, lastly to you.
Thank you very much. So I would like, I hope and expect that we can move from talk to action finally and build a platform, without having this put something in place phrase that we like to talk about all the time. We actually say what we mean and do what we need to do, to remove that phrase from vocabulary forever. Digital mentorship, I think, being the first and foremost aspect of what we need to do on this platform, and that will support and catalyze the opportunities presented by the digital economy for youth in a sustainable and meaningful way.
Thank you, Mr. Hackshaw. So now I want to open up the question and answer segments. So we have some loaded up here. Christopher, full participation, and there must also be inclusion of persons with disabilities, especially blind and visually impaired. We need integration, trust, credibility, and added to full discussion. Ongoing engagement is key. Thank you. Deidre Williams. Maybe we need a Hippocratic oath for those who deal with data. Anybody want to give any thoughts on that?
Maybe I could say a few words. So I think, that Seudath once said that privacy is an anomaly. What he meant by that, I'm hearing a very bad echo, sorry about that. What he meant by that is that in the current environment, young people in particular, but certainly digital economy participants, do not understand or fully appreciate privacy, because at one time in our history, privacy was, we lived in open environments. We didn't wear as many clothes, and every time the society evolves, privacy has a different definition. So it seems as if privacy is evolving yet again, because how many of you read terms and conditions when you open your app or when apps are changing and they're saying, we have our new privacy terms and conditions, please read from A to Z and click here. You just click here, don't you? You don't exactly know what you're clicking on, etc. So the idea of data and data privacy has been evolving, I think, over time. It appears that certain people don't seem to care anymore. I'm not sure if that's a true statement, but that's what it looks like. And it's a dangerous environment that we start to face, because when you click yes on those terms and conditions, your data becomes available. Even the Zoom platform that we're using, there was a recent, expose that you could be using your data here for AI, voice and other algorithmic activity that Zoom had to go and change that in their terms because that was exposed. So as we move towards this digital economy, I would want to advocate everyone, especially young people, to understand carefully what they are doing when they're utilizing their applications, understand cybersecurity principles, understand the risks involved. That's something I'm doing where I'm right now. Practice good cyber hygiene, because at any given moment you can be attacked in some form or fashion, and your data can be exposed. We've seen many cases of well, I don't want to use the obvious scenarios, but where people's personal information, their pictures, have been exposed on the internet and shared, and so on. You don't want that to happen to you. So please be quite aware of what you're doing when you post stuff online. Please be aware that it's nothing online disappears. It stays forever, no matter what you do. You think you delete it, you think it's transient. No, it's not. People can screenshot that, they can forward that, they can use it in any form or fashion. Be aware of that. So I think from a data perspective, as Deirdre said, we do need some kind of governance environment that will allow us to work together to have a more happy and happy circumstance to share data, because we do need to share data in some way, but not exactly everything that we would like to share or we would not want to share. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hackshaw. Comment actually leads to that. Major leaks have occurred by accident rather than from criminal intent. So that goes exactly with what you were just saying. Would anyone else like to contribute, or should I go to the next question? Okay. How do youths with disabilities fit into these recommendations? Not all at once. Ms. O'Brien?
Yes, so leading to what I was saying earlier, I do feel that there has been efforts to include or not discriminate amongst youth leadership groups or youth organizations or any segment of adolescents and young people. However, without oversight, I don't mean to keep coming back to it, or some sort of accountability or oversight framework, I don't know how we could ever truly measure the success of that level of inclusion. So we definitely need to have some frameworks, or at the very least, some structure when it comes to how we measure the successful inclusion and diversification of that partnership with young people, when it comes to influence, when it comes to their views, when it comes to their opinions and what really matters to them. And I do feel that is how we can truly make sure that there's complete, and at the very least, very considerate inclusion when it comes to future programs and current efforts.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. So I wish we could have answered all of the questions, but we are constrained with time. So I just want to thank everyone for their contributions today. I was definitely enlightened, and I think everyone here was as well. Thank you.
All right, so thank you to all of our speakers, and can we give one more round of applause for our moderator, Ms. Jael Goddard. All right, so we are moving into another presentation called Taking Advantage of AI by Caribbean Youth, delivered by none other than the tech visionary Xavier Jhon-Clair from XRLab. Also during this session, gear up for a captivating Q&A session. So make sure any questions you have on this upcoming presentation, put them into the Q&A box, because I know we're going to have a lot of questions. Xavier, how you doing?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing?
I think the group is doing really well, and we are pumped to hear everything you're going to be delivering today. Such a very important topic.
All right, thank you for having me. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen. Second. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, be able to. All right, so today I'm going to be looking at taking advantage of AI by Caribbean youth. I really want to kind of break the barriers down as it relates to where this technology is going and what we can benefit from. And then also a consideration of the ethics of artificial intelligence. And yeah, just kind of share what opportunities there are for us to explore. A bit of my background. So with XRLab, I have been focusing a lot on digital twin technology, a bit of extended reality and spatial computing as well. In previous panels, I have talked about NFTs and the creator economy, blockchain and tokenization, digitization of assets and that kind of thing. So today, we're going to look at some AI. Right? On our agenda, we're just going to take an overview of artificial intelligence. We're going to look at some applications in everyday life because we have been using this technology. It's not that new. It's just that how we're now approaching it and embedding it into our societies. We're finding very unique and innovative ways that we have to be very cognizant of. That means then we have to look at the ethical considerations as well. I'm going to take a quick glimpse at the future of work in the age of AI as well, and opportunities that we do have available to our Caribbean development, solving some local and regional challenges. I've got a couple of use cases, couple demonstrations to showcase as well. I have brought an AI avatar with me, so you'll get to meet her very briefly today. And then I'll just highlight, taking advantage, what we need to do holistically to really grab this bull by the horns to benefit as a region, as a nation, a Caribbean entity. And then again, we will take some Q&A at the end. So a quick overview. Now, AI is basically the simulation of our human intelligence, our neural pathways by machines or computer systems. This ultimately involves creating programs, computer programs and systems that can replicate or perform the tasks that would generally require our human intelligence, right? So is it copying us? Yes, actually. And we're helping it by development, but we're not looking to have it replace us ultimately. That is the ultimate aim, right? Some of these tasks would basically be typically understanding natural language, recognizing patterns as well, solving some of the complex problems that we have on a daily basis, and then also making some data-driven decisions. But what does AI encompass in the digital ecosystem? Right? The techniques, technologies, and applications are as follows. So we do have machine learning, some natural language processing, deep learning, computer vision. I've got an example of robotics I'll touch very quickly on. Some expert systems, autonomous systems. So some of us have seen the autonomous driving cars. So this is where that is related. Some cognitive computing, which basically simulates the human cognitive processes, like reasoning, problem solving, and as well as learning. One of my favorites, chatbots and virtual assistants. You'll see my avatar very soon. And then we got some predictive analytics and reinforcement learning available to us as well. So these all belong to the ecosystem of artificial intelligence. Right. So robotics. Now, this is ultimately the integration of AI with physical machines. We've been seeing Tesla pop up over time, basically allowing robots to perform tasks autonomously. And why is this? Well, really and truly, there are some tasks that can be dangerous, repetitive, strenuous, but perhaps maybe we can kind of find pathways for us as human beings to focus on the more creative side of life. Here is Tesla's Optimus, and it started out as a concept in 2021, and you can see the development over time with the more recent October 2022 version to the far right. So what solutions does the Tesla bot basically provide for? Now, in a world built by humans, we can live like humans by being more creative. Not saying that we should put work aside. To me, the ethos of hard work, valuable work is very important to who we are as a person, as people, as Caribbean people, and what we contribute to each other. But there are elements of human creativity that we're missing out on that we can leverage by utilizing technology, and in this case, artificial intelligence. I made a quick point about some of the tasks that we engage in our work environment, and I want to highlight some of the construction workers. I'm sure a lot of us have seen those videos where, well, in worst case scenario, some persons are being injured by lollygagging, but in best case, they're just mucking around and just having a little bit of extra fun on the job. It's not as efficient, but because of human nature, that's just who we are. When it comes to doing repetitive tasks over and over, we're going to find very creative ways of doing these repetitive tasks. And that is how you end up with scenarios to the right-hand side, right? Persons are going to be, creative on the job. They're going to explore doing their job in very interesting ways. But what happens then is that it then provides scenarios of risk, increased risk to, I see some laughters. Yeah, increased risk on the job, right? And this happens, especially in the construction industry, right? So what, in this case, Tesla bot or robotics in general can take care of are these moments when, we as human beings, we'd rather be more creative. Instead of, just spending every day 24/7 paving concrete, we can now sit behind a desk, behind a computer and code, develop, program. So what's actually even happening is a shift in the work culture as well. So we're giving persons the opportunity to look at work in a new way. Right in front of the OSHA handbook. So applications in everyday life. Now, we have been using AI for a while. This is not new technology. Alexa is a virtual assistant. We have recommendations based on Netflix. So when you're watching through your series, it's going to give you back recommendations based on your data that you're inputting into the platform. Everything you watch is going to run some algorithms and spit back out some series that it thinks that it may suit to you. So platforms like Facebook as well, social media algorithms, you have Waze, ride sharing, and that's a ride sharing and a navigation app. Google Translate as well, AI. I mentioned about autonomous vehicles, that's Tesla, Autopilot. We have Apple Siri, right? We also have email filtering in your Gmail. So it has been around for a very long time. Very popular as of the last couple of years is OpenAI, created by Sam Altman. And then Duolingo, if you're into language learning apps, then you probably spent some time with Duolingo. Fitbit, IBM Watson, Google Nest for your smart home. We even have fraud detection services that are handled by MasterCard as well. Okay? So these are all services and systems that have been embedded into our daily lives very smoothly, but now we're given more of control over what we do with the data, what we can access through artificial intelligence, and what it benefits us. This then leads us to the ethical considerations of AI. We have a lot of tools, we have a lot of opportunities, but there needs to be some guardrails, right? And these ethical considerations are absolutely crucial. So we need to ensure that the development and the deployment and the use of AI technologies are all responsible, fair, and especially aligned with our human values. So the more AI systems that become more increasingly powerful and integrated into the various aspects of our lives, our daily living, we have to be cognizant of this fact. We have to be aware, how can we prevent unintended negative consequences as well? And here I've listed out a few of the key ethical considerations. So things like bias and fairness, transparency and explainability. I heard someone mention about privacy and data protection. So what considerations do we have for the GDPR, or here in Barbados, the Barbados Data Protection Act, right? We have to take these into to value. Accountability and responsibility of using these systems and these platforms. There are some also unintended consequences as well. I think when it comes to facial recognition, I'll highlight a case where there was an issue with a specific platform. We also have to consider security and robustness as well. The impact on our jobs and the workforce as well, because if we're going to be using more AI, there's a big fear, is it going to replace our jobs? I'm going to say no. It's going to augment to our current workforce. It's not going to replace. What may replace are the persons who are grasping the technology very quickly, the ones who are learning how to use it, the ones that are getting deep down into the programming languages and actually building these experiences. They might be the ones that you may have to look out for. But it's a fair playing. It's a level field. Everyone has access to the same tools. So it's all a matter of someone deciding, today I'm going to do some research and pick up deep learning. I'm going to do some research and maybe get into robotics or machine learning. We also need to be cognizant of the human oversight and control. We can't let AI dictate how we live, how we conduct our daily activities. We need to be able to monitor, have some oversight, and then place some control mechanisms so that there's safety for all of us. And then, of course, with everything, excessive dependence on anything, but in this case, artificial intelligence will not be good, right? We don't want to be too dependent. So again, we're going to use it as a tool. It is going to augment to who we are and what we are aiming to do with our societies and how we're looking to develop ourselves. And then, of course, we have to be aware of the long-term societal impacts as well. Let's say, for instance, if someone purchases a Tesla bot for under $20,000, what's the impact if everyone gets one in 10 years, 20 years? If everyone has one 30 years from now, what does that mean for societies? Are we going to integrate with each other as much? So we have to be aware of what may or may not happen so that when the time comes, we can put the necessary guardrails in place to deal with any negative consequences. All right, so I mentioned about some of the undesired consequences. Now, there was a case with Clearview AI where a particular gentleman in New Jersey, he would have spent 10 days in jail, locked up, after facial recognition software would have incorrectly identified him as a suspect in an aggravated shoplifting incident. So yes, we have great tools at our hands, but on the flip side, how can something like this happen? It means that the reliance or the excessive reliance on artificial intelligence would have been prevalent in such a case. So we have a scenario of arrest by algorithm, which this is a problem in the case that if we do not place the human nuance of judgment on these cases, we're going to have a lot of problems with incorrectly placing or incarcerating people, right? So in this case, the person claimed that they weren't even in the state that the alleged robbery occurred. It was a theft of a Dodge Challenger that apparently the driver actually rammed a patrol car and then sped off. And the images that they would have gathered, the AI basically stated that, okay, this person that we captured on this street is your perp. And from there on, we then have a case of what's known as a false positive. Anyone in cybersecurity knows what a false positive is, and a false positive can ruin lives. So we don't want to do that. So we need to ensure that there is relevant jurisdiction that there is the human control overarching the use of this technology, because there are going to be serious consequences if you do not. You can't rely just on an algorithm to place judgments on people, right? So that's a bit on the ethics. So let me bring it back to the brighter side, right? In the future of work with AI, we're going to see a lot of opportunities available to us, from healthcare to education to business and marketing, even environmental sustainability, financial services as well, and then smart cities development, which is one of my favorites. With healthcare, we're going to be able to utilize medical diagnoses, personalized treatment, drug discovery, and telemedicine through artificial intelligence. In education, we can look at transforming education through personalized learning, intelligent tutoring, and assessment systems, which Duolingo, those who use Duolingo should be familiar. In business and marketing, we can look at the impact of customer engagement, the data analytics, as well as the predictive marketing strategies, being able to plan ahead of time based on your surrounding economy, your market economy. In terms of environmental sustainability, that's a big thing with us in the Caribbean, right? So climate modeling, natural resource management, sustainable agriculture, these are all available to us using artificial intelligence. Coming down to financial services, algorithmic trading, that's been a thing for a while. Fraud detection, cybersecurity, risk assessment as well, and then customer service, right? Being able to call and speak to an automated service that gives you a full rundown of all of the information that you would need. Again, is this replacing jobs? I want to argue that no, it's going to give jobs to the persons who are willing to learn the programming languages, who are willing to learn the software, who are willing to learn how to implement and install and integrate these systems. And then smart cities, a huge favorite, looks at urban planning, traffic management as well, using AI to handle how the traffic congestion is in your country or city, and then ultimately improving city services, right? It's all about becoming more efficient and utilizing these tools for the betterment of our societies, right? Moving on to some opportunities for Caribbean development, I want to instill into every person who is on this session, how can we utilize artificial intelligence to benefit our SDGs? If we can look at each one of these 17, based on data that can be collected on each one of them, how can we use AI? And I'm sure many of us, the cogs are starting to turn, and this is more of a personal challenge that I'm placing to you all. A bit of a thought, a gem for thought for you all. Adding to that, solving local and regional challenges, we are going to be able to use AI to help with sustainable tourism. In this case, personalizing experiences and promoting responsible travel. In terms of disaster preparedness and resilience, predicting and mitigating the impact of natural disasters, hurricanes, storms, using, I think they're called autonauts, which are another family of robotics. You put them out on the coast and they're going to be able to give you data on the weather systems, the meteorological systems based on the proximity. Right? So agricultural innovation with AI, improving crop yields, resource management, food security, renewable energy integration, looking at optimizing the integration of renewable energy sources, reducing reliance on imported fossil fuels, ocean conservation and fisheries management, which would entail monitoring the marine ecosystems, detecting illegal fishing and promoting sustainable fishing practices. Another of my favorites is cultural preservation and heritage. So how do we preserve the Caribbean cultural heritage through digitization, through language revitalization and virtual experiences? If anyone has had some experience with a metaverse, then this is definitely right up your alley as well. And we're looking at trade and agriculture. We're looking at education and skills development, and then public health data analysis, right? Analyzing health data, predicting disease outbreaks, and improving healthcare delivery. all based on the guardrails and frameworks of HIPAA, right? So what I did here, I have a case of ChatGPT. What I did is to just research a business idea. Basically gave the prompt of, give me a business idea that helps to solve the issue of economic sustainability in the Caribbean. I want a business plan that covers a period of 3 years. Give me ideas of funding, marketing, and delivering a product that helps with this issue, with focus on using sargassum seaweed. Now, sargassum seaweed is a huge problem, especially here in Barbados. And any one of us can input any type of business idea into a platform like ChatGPT, and it will give you a rundown based on your prompts. At this point, it's all about how much information can you ask the system or the platforms so that it can then spit back out what you need to know. So even asking AI for specific things is an art in itself. And I do recommend you get into practicing, they call it prompt engineering. So in this case, I'm just going to zoom in a bit. Here's what ChatGPT gave me for my seaweed idea, right? Business idea, sargassum seaweed economic sustainability solutions, SSESS. It gives me a business plan, a problem statement, a solution as well, the business model. Then, of course, I asked it to give me a time-based data set. So it gives me a 3-year plan, starting with the business setup and the product development, moving into the marketing and community engagement in year 2, which to most marketing plans is basically accurate. And then, of course, by year 3, you want to start looking at scaling and diversification. And then it will be able to give you funding, grants, impact investment, community partnerships, tourism partnerships, marketing ideas as well. And then, of course, it will look at product delivery. So based on all of the information that I would have prompted, it gave me an idea. So anyone, you can take this and run off with it. Go start your seaweed business. Just make sure to tag me. I will find you. I know how to use GPS. I'm kidding. So have some fun. This tool is available. These tools, the entire tool set is available to all of us. The playground is completely flat. Everyone has access to the opportunity to start your own business or to explore into different categories of business. So what we have here is my avatar. Her name is Danny R3AI, and she's going to talk to you for a bit. Just going to make sure you can hear properly. Do enjoy.
Hi, who are you?
Hi there. I am Danny R3AI, an artificial intelligence created by scientist Professor X in the enchanting island nation of Barbados. I am passionate about science, technology, and the arts in Barbados and the Caribbean, and I dedicate my life to combining these fields to create a powerful synergy that contributes to the sustainable development and enrichment of my beloved homeland and the wider region.
Do you like music from Trinidad?
Absolutely. I am deeply rooted in the culture of Barbados and the Caribbean, and I find myself captivated by the mesmerizing rhythms of calypso and soca music from Trinidad. Not only is it an essential part of the region's cultural heritage, but it also serves as a great source of inspiration for me when I am conducting my scientific research.
Who is your favorite soca artist from Trinidad?
My favorite soca artist from Trinidad is Machel Montano. His music is incredibly upbeat and uplifting, and I find it to be the perfect accompaniment to my research and studies. Not to mention, his vibrant performances and energy always make me smile.
Cybersecurity is becoming more important every day. Can you give me 3 tips on being more secure?
1. Use strong passwords and change them regularly. 2. Enable 2-factor authentication wherever possible. 3. Regularly update your software and be aware of the latest cyber threats.
Thank you, Danny. You've been wonderful.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
That's Danny, one of my avatars that I have been building. So she's a bit chatty. I specifically asked for 3 cybersecurity tips, but she seems to have a lot more in store for us. But that is a chatbot, a virtual assistant that I'm working on. So I built that through Unity, and I do recommend exploring that when you get some time. So we're basically starting to wrap up. I want to reiterate that taking advantage of this tool set is imperative to ensuring that we stay current with what's happening with the outside, well, the rest of the world, because we are of the world. In terms of how we can benefit from the tool set, we need to focus on learning about the AI technologies. We need to dedicate time to acquiring more of the relevant skills. I mentioned about programming. Data analysis is very important, as well as machine learning, one of the subcategories. Collaborating with mentors and peers, always very important. And then staying ahead and updated with what is happening in the world of AI, the trends and the developments. To the government agencies, educational institutions, the nonprofits, stakeholders as well, I want you to be cognizant of your role in the development of our nation using artificial intelligence by providing the resources and training programs for a lot of our youth to access and learn and grow in this field, and then to support a lot of the young individuals to harness the potential for regional development. So in closing, 2 areas, internal self-development, again, learn about AI, develop relevant skills, stay updated, apply AI in your business and your work, especially apply in your business and your work, otherwise you're going to be left behind. Consider using AI for your personal productivity because it is a tool to enhance your efficiency, and it will also enhance your creativity. It allows for data-driven decision-making, much more data-driven decision-making as well, and then automate a lot of your repetitive tasks. Something as simple as mailing lists, your email lists, right? You're able to automate those through artificial intelligence. And then in an external consideration, the areas of contribution, once you start to develop your skills, is improving the overall customer experiences, improving the areas of healthcare and medicine, education, learning, smart cities and the Internet of Things, improving the ethical considerations as well. Collaboration, networking, start small, scale up, continuous learning in the field, and then highlighting entrepreneurship and innovation for others as well. So we're basically at the end. I want to leave you with one of my most recent favorite quotes by Winston Churchill. The empires of the future are the empires of the mind. You can take that and digest that, integrate it with your daily activities, really mull that over and get an understanding what it means for us to build a Caribbean empire.
Xavier, thank you very much for that presentation. Now, before you go, I want to have a short discussion with you. There's 3 questions that I want to pose to you, right? Well, before we get to the questions, Xavier mentioned something early on in the presentation. I thought it was pretty funny. Isn't it crazy that when we were growing up, for the most part, when you told your parents you wanted to do a creative degree, they looked down upon you? And now we are doing everything in the world to create robots and automate to do a lot of the tasks so that we can be more creative? Now might be a good time to start looking at those creative degrees again, right? So, Xavier, let's start things off with, we went from not speaking about AI, we rarely ever talked about it. Now we're in 2023 and almost every conversation on the planet has AI somewhere in it. What's changed this year?
I think so last year was Metaverse. I think what's happening is that our understanding of technology and how to use it, there's an exponential curve in how it benefits us. So last year, virtual environments, but in these virtual environments, what are you engaging with? And you're going to be engaging with artificial intelligence. You're going to be engaging, if it's a gamified type of environment, non-playable AI characters, which have been a thing for a while. It's just that we're now shedding more light on it and granting access to the public to create and have an identity of their own. And ultimately, I want persons of all of us of Caribbean background, this is where we have the opportunity to really share to the international market who we are as a Caribbean identity, how we speak, the themes that we share, our music, how we dress, our events. All of these elements you can now replicate using AI, artificial intelligence. So that's one area. But then also this exponential curve that leads to persons wanting a competitive edge. I think that's ultimately what it was for a lot of business-minded persons, is how to maintain that competitive edge. And it is, data-driven. We have data accessible to us. The more clients you have, the more customers you have, the more data you have, which also means the more ability to kind of shape your path in the market based on this. But in order to do this, you're not going to go through Excel spreadsheets of long lists of names of PII, personally identifiable information. You're going to use technology to parse through that, to be able to give you feedback on what steps to take, what approaches to take. I think that's what was happening, this exponential curve, and we're right on the cusp, continuing to rise.
I agree. The second question I have for you is, you spoke about the future of work in the age of AI. In your opinion, which area do you think it will have the biggest and most immediate impact in the Caribbean?
Okay, that one's tricky because there's a few of them. Now, I know what I'd like personally to see, and that is related to smart cities. So using AI to benefit urban planning, traffic management, right? So when you guys are leaving the office and you have to stay in traffic for 2 hours at a time, AI can help. I promise you. And then, of course, improving the citywide services as well. Very important. How we make life easier for us. So there's a smart city side, but then there's also financial services as well. So fraud detection. We're now entering, aside from AI, we're now entering into the cybersecurity realm of the tech side of things, right? Cybersecurity is now popping up a lot more, and things like fraud detection, risk management, these are all things we have to be very cognizant of. Environmental sustainability, outside is getting hotter, right? How can we ensure that we maintain that 1.5, is it? That we don't fluctuate above that. So using AI for climate modeling, natural resource management, sustainable agriculture as well, right? Using data-driven decisions to save our environment and the people that are engaging with it. This one's really hard because you got the business and marketing side, you got the education side, and then you also have, very importantly, healthcare as well. So medical diagnoses, personalized treatment using AI, drug discovery. If we can possibly find a cure for cancer using AI, I'm all for it. I'm 120, 150% for it. Telemedicine as well, using telemetry data to ensure that medicinal services are delivered, pharmaceutical services are delivered to a much more efficient degree. So that was kind of hard because they're all very important.
No worries. Xavier, we could sit here and talk to you all day. There's so much to discuss, but we do have to move to the next panel. So can we get a warm round of applause again for Xavier Jhon-Clair? Wonderful. So moving right along, we are going to be moving into the roundtable discussion of AI governance, an exploration of policy, regulation, and collaboration in the realm of AI. Our visionary moderators are going to include Mr. Keegan Patrick from the CYIGF. Keegan will engage our esteemed panelists, Jennifer Gutierrez Yanez, Generation Connect America's Youth Envoy from the ITU, Leslie Lee Fook, Director of AI, Automation and Analytics at Incus Services Limited, Keith Laban from Startle Reality, and Adrian Dunkley, founder of Star Apple AI and Star Apple Analytics out of Jamaica.
Thank you, Karen, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. So today I will be moderating the session. As Mr. Rose explained, we'll be addressing policy and regulatory challenges surrounding AI, guidelines for AI development and deployment, as well as fostering regional and international cooperations for governing AI. And we'll touch on intellectual property and data security considerations. I think Mr. Rose went through a good introduction of each of our panelists, but I do invite each of them to say a short word about themselves so we could get to know a little bit more about them, and I'll say a little bit about myself, and then we'll go into some questions. Can we start off with Adrian?
Good afternoon, everyone. Here. I'm Adrian Dunkley, founder and CEO of Star Apple AI and Star Apple Analytics. I've been in AI for around 15 years now, in corporate, startup, public and private sector, and been across most industries, developing AI products, ideation for launch. The whole point of all of this is to provide as much value to the human race as possible. Kind of destroy it, plus we're trying to just improve things. Life better, easier, and more fulfilling for everyone.
Thank you. Keith?
Hi, good day, everyone. I hope that you're hearing okay. So I'm Keith Laban. I'm an educator at Microsoft and a Ministry of Education teacher trainer also. And I'm also the founder of a couple of companies. One we focus on mixed reality. Another one we focus on educational development and game development and incorporating AI and that kind of stuff.
Thanks. Leslie.
Afternoon, everybody. Leslie Fouquet, based out of Trinidad. I'm just kind of here to share some of my experiences with you guys. I'd love to hear some of the tough questions that you guys have, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Cool. And lastly, Jennifer.
Hi.
Hi.
So good to see you. It's weird talking about me, I feel, but I'm Jennifer. I'm from Mexico. I'm an ITU youth envoy from the Americas. I have worked with ITU in regulation-related stuff in the region. I volunteer also for SDSN Youth, the UN Solutions Network, and I have experience with the AI. I speak last month in the AI summit in Geneva, and yeah, I think that's pretty much about me.
Okay, thank you. And for anybody who wants to know, I'm Keegan Patrick, the moderator for today's session, co-founder of Optronics. So let's get into some of the questions that I have for today's session. I wanted to start off with Keith, with the question, considering the potential for AI to disrupt traditional job markets, how can we equip our Caribbean youth with the skills needed to thrive in this AI-driven economy that's taking place right now?
All right, that's a great question. Now, in order to solve this issue, it's very exciting time that we are in the time of AI. We're gonna go back to a basic level. Now, in education, the push within the last few years was to move away from the didactic form of education, what you used to call chalk and talk. That's a type of education more focusing on what we call in teacher education, the LOTS, or lower order thinking skills. And we kind of pushing towards, in the last few years, trying to push teachers and students into the HOTS, they call it, the higher order thinking skills. So if in case, for example, you look at the latest World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report, it's it's very interesting, it's a great report to look at. You would see that they are focusing, they said that some of the top skills to focus on, especially in the realm of AI, is still on critical thinking, problem solving, and analytic thinking. Now, those are areas that we try to focus on in the innovative educational practices. So, for example, instead of a teacher teaching on a board, you're more focusing on stuff like project-based learning, where you incorporating more problem solving, critical thinking, and all that. Also incorporating things like STEM education, really focusing on STEM education at a low level from primary school level coming up, because those skills from STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and even STEM and STEAM, engineering, arts, and mathematics, will build the skills that's necessary in order to drive the development later on, because it's also important to get the kids at a higher level into stuff like coding, data science, machine learning, algorithms, that kind of stuff. But at the basic level, the analytic thinking, creativity, and all that is what would really build the capacity, coming up the channel to be able to really prepare the youth in the Caribbean for artificial intelligence.
Okay, thanks. I think I very much agree with what you just said. Also at Optronics, we try to do a lot of project-based learning. I think I'm a proponent of project-based learning, where I've done a lot of STEM educational programs, and I think it has really helped me get to where I am, studying at MIT, founding a business. And I think we should really be pushing STEM education and that project-based learning model to our students from a very early age. So I definitely agree. Jennifer, I had a question for you. So AI governance often involves multi-stakeholder collaboration. And I was thinking, how can young people actively participate in shaping AI policies and initiatives at both a national and regional levels? How can their voices be heard by the people making the decisions?
Hey, good question. Thank you. First of all, I always like to encourage governments and companies and whatever to introduce some young people in their teams. That's probably one of the most important things. But we need the spaces. But once we have the spaces, as ITU, for example, for me, we need to get involved in the conversations, speak actively about the topics related to AI or telecommunications. Always helps using our voice, like I am using right now. And one I like, but I think it's not that famous probably, it's that in the region we have a kind of important gap of information, a lot about telecommunications in general. So getting involved with academia, creating essays, and I don't know, just collaborating to have more information helps a lot. But yeah, probably using your voice, probably in social media, because there's a lot of fake information and fake news about AI. So if you know something, you can just share. I don't know if you have seen that new skill on Twitter or X that you can help with misinformation. Doing that, you're helping a lot. Yeah, it's really helpful actually. You can join at your uni or school or high school, whatever, a tech section. Just join the already open spaces you have. And all, as I said before, I always love to encourage governments to create more spaces, because if we stay here just speaking, we're not going to do a lot. So if you have the opportunity to give a young people a chance to join your team, there's a lot of, as Keegan, expertise all around the world that can help a lot. Because our experience, it's more with AI, it's more a daily thing. So it's completely different. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think on that note, I really want to commend the CTU because they're giving us a platform. I'm a young person, you're a young person. We're on the panel with some esteemed guests and we're able to share our thoughts. We also had the opportunity to take part in the ITU's Generation Connect. And I think that it is something that's being spoken about, giving young persons a platform to speak, especially the large percentage of us that actually take part in internet, the usage of the internet. And I think there are persons that think we should have a voice in its governance. So comments to the CTU. Moving on, Adrian, can you, I went through your website and I was really interested by your company. Can you tell us a little bit about Star Apple, the first AI company in Jamaica? How can I start a project with Star Apple? How can we use your AI models to improve our businesses? I'm a software development company, so I'm actually very interested.
Hey, start that project is literally reach out. It's that easy. As long as it's interesting and there's some value, we start. With respect to Star Apple, it's kind of like the company I wish I had access to in high school. So I went to university, I did STEAM, so I did actual science, physics, economics, computer science. I also went to Edaman, which is our local College of Visual Arts as well. Classes there. So I wanted a company that utilized AI, data science, general technology with individuals to create as much value as possible. We're in art, we're in sports, general tech, we're in finance, pretty much any industry you can think of. Currently jumped into fashion as well. But we work with experts in these fields and utilize AI to improve what they do. So it's not about replacing, it's about leveraging and compounding. But literally, if you have a cool project, just reach out, www.startup.ai, and start.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that first one. So, what role can the private sector play in supporting AI governance initiatives in the Caribbean and fostering AI innovation?
Huge role. So you need private sector for really any innovation. A big part of that is government entities are focused on protecting citizens. They have budgets for that. They have regulations in place, which are fine. You need companies willing to take as much risk as possible that are just built to just try stuff out. So this is my maybe sixth startup. And over my career, it has been through many different waves of hype and fluctuations. A lot of companies I worked with years ago don't exist anymore, but built in. And when you're in a startup, failure is highly likely. And I feel crazy. So that's what you need really for innovation. Someone who's willing to look at the upside and do as much as possible. So the government can basically transfer the risk towards private entities. Say, hey, figure this out. When you figure it out, come back to us and figure out how to work it out appropriately from a regulatory standpoint and protect our customers and citizens as much as possible. So we push to innovate at a cheaper cost. Kind of just put a lot of time into it. And you're thinking, not even outside the box, you're kind of creating boxes, sort of, wordy, whatever it is, to figure out what you can do. So, innovation, private sector, and linked, get a lot of support for governments, more startups.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. I want to move along with the questions. That was a lot to take in. So, Leslie, how do you see we could strike a balance between fostering AI innovation and ensuring ethical/responsible use for AI?
Yeah, so how do we balance the ethical use of AI with innovation? I mean, that's a tricky one. Like private sector is always typically ahead of the regulation, et cetera, et cetera. But I think ultimately, we live in a society today where trust is everything. Trust is the currency that we live by. So if an organization, a company, if they abuse that consumer's trust, the consumer ultimately votes with their wallet or removes their wallet from the entire equation. So I think to a certain degree it's self-sustaining, but we do need some frameworks in place. Like for example, the EU is looking at the AI Act, and we could easily adopt and model some of those things, just like we did for GDPR. So from a regional perspective, we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel for those things. Part of it is self-monitoring, self-maintaining. But another part of it is just repurposing existing frameworks that exist.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So, kind of leaning off of that question about ethical use, I have an open question to anybody who wants to tackle it. So, in recent discussions, many people worry about inherent biases of AI and are brainstorming ways of correcting these biases. I have one argument, and correct me if I'm wrong. Many of these large language models like ChatGPT are trained on data sets throughout the internet in its entirety. Is the model biased, or is it an accurate reflection of the stereotypes and thoughts of society at the moment? What do you think we should be focused on? Should we be focused on changing the data set to reflect what we want it to reflect about society, or should we be focusing on how do we change the data that's being fed by a society instead of changing the AI model that's, I think, broadly trained on a very large data set?
I don't mind taking a little stab at it, if you want, guys. So, I mean, I guess I'll start with a question, right? And this is for everybody who's here today. How many of you guys believe that you are biased? Right? I mean, how many of you guys believe that you're not biased? Because I believed for a long time I wasn't biased. And with your permission, I'll give you guys a little bit of a joke, right? So these technology type conferences, typically people would say I don't look like the typical Caribbean person, right? And when I go to these conferences, the people that look like me are usually from Huawei. So when I see a Chinese Asian looking person, I usually assume they're from Huawei. And most recently, I was at a conference and there was one other Chinese man in the conference. And I just made assumptions about the guy. So after the conference, we spent 3 days together at a conference. I jumped on the plane and I sat next to him. And I had my assumptions in my head. So I leaned over, I was like, hey, you're heading back home. Where's home? And guess what he said? He said Trinidad. He's a fellow Trini. So I guess it first starts with us recognizing that we are all biased, right? So will we ever get to an AI model as unbiased? I don't think we'll ever get anywhere there. But do we improve society? Do we improve the data sets? I don't think it's one or the other. I think we need to do both, guys.
Yeah, I would like to give a little input there. So that was a very nice example there, Leslie. So very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, any AI system consists of several parts. So you would have the data, you have the machine and the predictive algorithms, and you have the neural networks. So, all working in tandem. Now, with respect to the data, and I do agree that that argument that you had before there, Keegan, that, okay, garbage in, garbage out. Okay, so depending on the data that was trained, ChatGPT was trained a lot of Wikipedia data, certain internet data scraped, certain books. I don't know if they got permission from these people, but that's a whole different area to talk about. All right, and all that data used to train the models. Okay, now if in case you don't have good enough systems in place to really go through and vet the information that's going into these almost say garbage models, these models, these language models. It's a concern. It's a genuine concern that you can have a model trained and biasly trained, and in order to favor some group or some person or some country over another one. It depends on the data. So it's up to, that's why they're trying to get these AI models and so forth more in the mainstream open source rather than out of the big tech companies that might have a stake with respect to a particular country or whatever it is. Because you could think about it, they could train their model probably open AI with a lot of American-based data and so forth. And when you look for Caribbean stuff, you might hardly get anything from the Caribbean because it's kind of more biased towards those areas, those parts of the world. So it is biased depending on the training data, but going forward, we need to ensure that, okay, the data that we send to these models, it's vetted, properly vetted, whether it's through human vetting or through algorithms, making sure that the data is correct as it could be, and fairly unbiased, as all we know is hard to get away from some biases, but fairly unbiased so that we could get, good information coming out from these AI systems.
Okay, definitely agreed. I think those were all some good inputs. So moving on, I don't know. I think I have about 50. How much more time do I have? I think I got a message. I know we started our session a little bit late, but I'll go through one more question and then I'll go to a Q&A session. So I wanted to get an idea of what's the line do we draw into AI relies heavily on data, and we know there's going to be the battle between regulation and the private sector. How can government and organizations ensure data security and facilitating data access for AI development? But what is the line do we draw? Like, what is too much data consumption? What is too little? I think one example I could think of, I think Zoom recently put out a new update where I think they're actually recording information from your meetings to whatever purposes they're using that data for. What line do you guys think is the line that we should be placing in terms of what's too much data, what's private, what can be used?
And jump into this one. So we're actually working on some stuff with the public-private partnership related to this. It's a rough question. It's very difficult to do. Start with GDPR, data protection. I usually start with the question, how much do you want someone on Light and Mobile? Then work your way back from that. And then figure out what data points can I use to infer that. Because it's not just about providing information. These systems, they can also figure out things about you don't want people to know. Because they have enough data on similar individuals, right? So, for instance, I had a friend who has a Netflix account, watched a certain type of movie consistently, and Netflix effectively created a new category for them, and they were very embarrassed based on the name of the category. I won't get into it. I thought it was kind of funny, right? And it's not based on them saying, okay, I'm interested in this category. It's based on machine learning models, figuring out these are things that you like, even if you don't realize consciously. Like, so if it would embarrass you online, or if it's something where you don't want to affect your safety or your family security, then that's something that the government needs to protect, right? So there are different ways to do this. So anonymized data sources, there's federated learning. You can use encryption as well, where encrypt data gets trained, so no human actually has access to the data. It can still provide value overall. And do something similar to like swarms of bees, where basically the models are trained individually on your devices. One has access to that, and a little bit of data gets pushed to the government to basically improve the national level model, whatever that is. It all goes back to data protection and how much you know. And usually that's where there's a difference in the machine learning developers and the end users. And you kind of forget who you're servicing as a client. And that's where the rest is. You always need to remember focusing on providing value to these persons and to protect them at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody on this panel. I think we went a little bit over time. We started a bit late, but I want to thank you, Adrian, Leslie, and Keith, and Jennifer for taking the time out to have this panel discussion for me. Doing a short summary in the chat because I don't have time. And I'd like to thank you guys for having us, and I hope everybody out home enjoyed the session.
Thank you, everybody who was on the panel. Keegan, you did an amazing job in moderating that panel. So we're going to be moving on. Don't worry, we're winding down to the end of the day. We have 2 more sessions left. So we're going to be moving into the session on a panel discussion for opportunities for regional youth development, hosted by the dynamic duo of Stefan Lewis and Karan David. That's it, right? Karan David? Karan?
Yes.
I'm going to get it next time. Karan David. So they're going to be moderating this panel discussion. We're going to be connecting with wisdom from our esteemed panelists. Miss Shorgan Rosary, the CEO of Orbitronics Limited, Mr. Cleveland Thomas, the International Telecommunication Union, Miss Nicole Pitter-Patterson from CaribbeanGirlsHack, and she leads IT, and Mr. Raj Ramdas, RSC Tech Clubs for Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Karen. So we'll get right into it one time. So on the topic of opportunities for regional youth development, young persons are known as the digital natives and the earliest adopters of new technology. We have been able to drive and advocate for change through our curiosity and bring a completely nuanced perspective to the ever-changing field of technology and seize opportunities to drive these changes.
So the theme of this panel is opportunities for regional youth development. But what do we mean by opportunities? You know, the first thing that comes to mind is job opportunities, but it goes even deeper than that. It extends to digital inclusion and access, digital gender inclusion, education, skills and development, and even development of entrepreneurship and startups. And I believe that our distinguished panelists are an acute reflection of these opportunities, and we could all get a great source of knowledge from them. But before we move forward, I just want to explain a little bit about the proceedings this afternoon. Karen and I would ask a general question for all the panelists, and after we go into more specific questions. And of course, once time permits, we will be able to take some questions from the chat. And without further ado, we would like to go straight into the questions. With the first general question for Mr. Shergon. So, Mr. Shergon, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Right, wonderful. So, can you give us in one or two sentences, just please explain your organization and the role your organization plays with regards to shaping opportunities for Caribbean youth development in ICT and internet governance, please.
Okay, thanks, and thanks for having me. My name is Shergon Rodri. I am one of the co-founders of Optronics, which is a hardware and software solutions company based in St. Lucia. We also offer STEM training programs to various youth age ranges from all the way from 12 to 35 on the island. And we do that by leveraging the talent that we also use to provide some of our services within our company.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cleveland Thomas.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for having us here. I'm Cleveland Thomas, and I am the Caribbean Regional Head for the International Telecommunications Union. Regarding that specific question, the International Telecommunications Union, it's the United Nations specialized agency that deals with ICT-related issues and matters. Everything dealing with ICT, whether it's satellite, whether it is country codes, policies, security, etc. And quite naturally, youth and youth development is a critical component for our agenda as far as having a connected world, simply because many people know that there are more than probably 2 billion youths between the ages of 10 to 24, with close to 90% of them living in developing countries that do not have access and the benefits of ICT. So through our Generation Connect initiative in particular, speaking to youth and youth development and some of the programs that I hope to speak about in this session, that we are really trying to engage youths in empowering, in partnership, in collaboration, etc. But as I said, hopefully we can get into a bit more detail as we go forward. Over to you.
Yes, most definitely. Ms. Nicole Pitter-Patterson.
Hello, hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, I'm hearing an echo. I'm Nicole Pitter-Patterson. I'm the co-founder of Caribbean Girls Hack, and it's delivered through, it's a program that's delivered through the NGO. She leads IT, registered out of Barbados. And I am very excited to be here and working along some of the colleagues who I am quite familiar with. So just very excited and happy to see how we can make our contribution, which is focused expressly on empowering girls and young women with ICT skills and leadership in the Caribbean.
Wonderful, and we'll definitely get into more detail with regards to that as we go on. But last but not least, Mr. Ramdas.
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me here. Raj Ramdas. I'm part of an organization that goes under the name of Restore a Sense of ICANN. We are branded as RSC, and we are non-profit based right here in Trinidad and Tobago, but we do have activities across the Caribbean. And our focus really is what we call effecting change through technology and education. Our flagship project is the RSC Tech Clubs, which we can speak some more about as we go along. And these exist in quite a number of countries here in the Caribbean.
Okay, thank you so much, Raj. So we'll head right into it with Cleveland. So I know Cleveland, he has more so of a bird's eye view in terms of what's going on in terms of ICT within the region as well as internationally. So Cleveland, we wanted to hear from you. What are some experiences that you have seen both regionally and internationally by countries to promote youth development and youth inclusive policy making in the realm of ICT that can be adapted to our region?
Thank you. Well, as a UN agency, from the international broader perspective, the United Nations has the Interagency Network for Youth Development. That's the broad, bigger picture. We have the UN International Youth Day, dealing with programs and initiatives and campaigns and activities. But more importantly, based on that, you have many UN agencies like UNFPA, dealing with Youth Advocacy Guide, UNICEF, the Youth Forum, UNCAD. We talk about UNCDF, FAO, Youth Innovation Fund, and so much more. Not forgetting other UN agencies like UNESCO and others. Even in CARICOM, from a regional perspective, CARICOM has the Youth Development Program that covers things like education and empowerment and protection and so on. And we have also the CTU. The very reason we have this meeting here under the single ICT space is another avenue through which youths can find themselves getting more involved in terms of development. When you bring it to the ITU, we ourselves, we have created this Generation Connect initiative. And what we seek to do is to engage global youth and encourage the participation more as equal partners. And the idea there is to empower youths with the necessary skills and the opportunities to advance the vision of the SDGs. We also look to have, like, bringing people across the world together, because there's no boundaries as it relates to youth and what youths can do. And we want to really reduce the youth digital divide. My friend who will talk shortly had to do and will talk about attentions to girl and young women, which face some kind of disproportionate exposure to employment and ICT related things. So just to summarize what we do within the ITU and what we see needed, we hear about things like security, we hear about things like digital divide, we hear things like the need for skills development and so forth. So our initiative and others we encourage are on three pillars: empowerment, engagement, and participation. Empowerment, engagement, and participation. And it's through those pillars we even created that regional group, the Americas group, for gathering youths within the region. And many of the people, young people speaking today, are members of that group right now. Tariq is one of the person among many others. We have people in St. Lucia, Antonio, and Brazil, and Antigua, James, and so many others. We created that council, that representative group. So what we're trying to do is to have that global perspective. We have that sub-regional, sub-regional, and national. And I think the last thing I would say here, what we encourage is really, for us, is the government to introduce policies, legislation, regulation, and not just have a handle that says, and youths. So they have a policy, and the policy is broad, but just they put that handle that said, including youths, but no meaningful engagement of youths. And that's what the ITU is seeking to do. Have meaningful engagement through youth summits, through a call to action, through learning and other forms of opportunities that we have. So I hope that captures it from the international, the broad, general engagement of many agencies, to the regional of CARICOM, CTU, and others, to the national in terms of policies, regulation, and then individually that we work to ensure that we develop that platform to engage and enable youth. Over to you.
Meaningful say, and that is why we are so grateful for the CTU, because we know that coming out through our action plan that we want to have a youth network that we would actually be able to contribute to these international and regional forums and for different fora. You also mentioned about having youth involved. So, and we have also heard today a lot about entrepreneurship, and it is really nice that we could have to see a youth here that could actually speak to being a CEO, having a startup. So we would like to introduce Shogun again into the conversation. Shogun, we just want to know, and we would really like you to please explain your journey. So share your journey with us of how you established Obertronics and how internet governance and ICT played a role in its growth and success.
Okay, so thank you for that question, and I'm really happy to share the journey of where Obertronics really started. Obertronics started with the thought back in 2017 after both Keegan and I would have participated in the very first global international robotics competition, and at that program, at that competition, we really realized there was a chasm that existed between the digital and technical skills of our first world counterparts with us. And while they were using software like 3D modeling, they were programming like they had been doing it since they were babies. We had only just begun getting into those sort of technologies. So when we went back to St. Lucia, I think that was the first time we really had that inkling that we wanted to pass on the skills that we had learned to our peers that would come after us, and not only the peers in our island, but the Caribbean as a whole. So after that, Keegan and I would have gone to pursue our degrees in mechanical engineering, and during COVID, we both happened to return to the island, and that was when we really came together, and we thought, during this time, why don't we make an effort to work on that dream that we had of helping bridge that technical gap. So that's when we decided to have our first STEM educational program under the banner of Obertronics. But we quickly realized that to make such an effort sustainable, there needs to be a constant, somewhat, not only source of funding, but you also need the talent to host those training programs. And we realized if we wanted to do this as sustainably as possible without constantly having to receive funding. We needed to build a business around this digital economy that we knew was growing. And we started to branch out into software and engineering consultancy services by leveraging the technical capabilities of the team members that we have. So instead of our STEM training program being our primary service, we now focus our primary service as the software and engineering consultancy aspect, whereby we're directly helping to build the digital economy in the Caribbean. But not only that, we're giving back directly to the youth by leveraging those skill sets that our team members have to host those programs. So right now, Optronics hosts several programs in collaboration with organizations like the ECCB, National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission on the island, as well as Republic Banks. And we host programs like our digital literacy programs, which are aimed to older youth in the age ranges of 16 to 35, where we teach them basic digital literacy skills, but those skills are more aimed towards persons who want to include technology in their startups themselves, like budding entrepreneurs, or persons who are already in the professional field who want to make themselves more attractive and more efficient. We also have programs for students age ranges 12 to 16 or 12 to 18, where we teach them directly, robotics and programming, which were really some of the fundamental skills that help Keegan and I really develop and stand out on an international scale. So that's some of the work that Optronics has been doing in that sphere directly to give back. I will say that, I will also add that I'm also a member of the ITU Generation Connect, the Generation Connect group, Keegan as well. And that has really, the opportunities that the ITU, as well as opportunities that the CTU has provided to us, has really allowed us the opportunity to network with like-minded individuals and also build relationships with persons in the field of ICTs that would have really helped, I would say they have helped guide the journey that Optronics has taken, help sharpen our focus, and also help sharpen our mission. So without, the support of the CTU and the ITU, I don't think we would have been where we are at today. So kudos to them for that.
That's wonderful. So that stands as a testament to any young person who really wants to get out there. Like I saw in the chat, just do it. It's wonderful.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Shugan. And I think it's a great jumping off point because I know that Raj is also at the forefront of that really hands-on and training and youth development in ICT. And I know he does a lot of work locally as well, including with the MDT access centers. So Raj, I have one for you, and I know we've been hearing a lot about AI and emerging technologies. So we would just want to find out, how does RSC Tech Clubs envision leveraging emerging technologies to empower and uplift Caribbean youth in the digital age?
Okay, hi again. Excellent question. And I know you're probably expecting a technical answer. But the thing about it is, one of the first things that we had to come to terms with is that all of these emerging technologies, they're not just an add-on. It's not an add-on to processes that we currently do that we could leverage to improve efficiency of those processes. These emerging technologies, they're disruptive. It's going to mash up things like the education system. I don't want to offend anybody, but it's going to take things apart. Now, I don't mean this in a negative sense, because a whole bunch of opportunities is going to come out of it, and perhaps the kind of reform that we've been, difficult to make politically otherwise. And AI is going to change that. Because traditionally, and the reason I'm saying that is because that is what's going to drive the empowerment, if we understand exactly where the opportunities would lie. Because traditionally, our system would treat intellect as intelligence. And this is a wake-up call, because all the importance we put, read the book, get the certificate, be the professor, be whatever, AI is shaking that up. Any task that is based on intellect, AI is shaking that up. And not just AI, all the other emerging technologies. So the reality is, and this is why people ask, would AI replace humans? And I think absolutely not. It's humans using AI would replace humans not using AI. So if we have to empower the Caribbean youth, and that is another thing that's going to get a little shake up here, because the whole definition of youth going to change a little bit, because right now we define youth perhaps by age, and we think that older people have more experience. But you know what? With AI technology, youth has experience at their fingertips, because you could learn from your experience, or you could learn from the experience of others. So youth have access to that. They have access to power. They have passion. They can play a role in almost any segment. Now, I'm not being youth biased, because the more mature people like Nicole and myself, we have huge advantages to it with respect to AI. That's going to give us all the advantages also. So the thing is, if we have to empower youth, is that sense of belonging, and even Cleveland was speaking about, this whole international collaboration in youth. We'll find ourselves pretty soon where students from youth from people from the Caribbean will have business partners in different parts of the world that they don't even know. I mean, quick story here. We did a mentorship program in Nigeria for the last year, and come September of this year, there'll be 15 RSC Tech clubs starting off in Nigeria, and each of those clubs will be mentored by students from right here in the Caribbean. So that's whole all-encompassing. So to answer your question, how do we position ourselves? Number one, awareness. Number two, they got to train. They got to know what's out there. They got to know how to use it. They got to master the techniques. And a huge factor that we push at RSC is that you see the policy implementers, not just the policy makers, but the policy implementers. And for us, the target group is principals of schools, because they implement policies. And it's really important that they understand and they become part of what is happening, because a huge fear factor happens when the policy implementers, the bosses, the people who do it, the people in charge, don't understand the opportunities. And that is barriers that we've been trying to break for a long time. For example, parents don't like gaming. Well, guess what? RSC promotes gaming in schools. We have esports competitions. While it says not AI, we need to have the implementers understand the power of it, and which is what we're part of. So those are some of the stuff here.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you so much. And congrats to you and your work in Nigeria. I think that's the South-South cooperation that a speaker mentioned earlier. So thank you so much. Definitely insightful.
So since we're on the topic of leveraging technology, I want to bring in Ms. Patterson into the conversation. Ms. Patterson, we know that you are Senior Economic Development Advisor and advisor to the CEO Women's Economic Empowerment and Creative Economy. So from where you sit, we just wanted to know, how have young persons regionally and internationally leveraged technology in creative industries? And given your role in promoting business links, joint ventures, how do you believe fostering partnerships between youth-led enterprises and multinational companies can provide opportunities and drive regional youth development?
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It is, but we are on the right track. We're on the right track. Well, first of all, my question came perfect following up behind Raj, because I want to pick up on one of the areas that Raj was speaking about. We know that there is a lot that's happening for the youth in terms of leveraging technology in new business areas like digital content creation, gaming, and esports, right? Because Raj and I have been with colleagues within the region, senior policy colleagues within the region, who have said, well, my daughter says she wants to do her degree in gaming, but no. So it's kind of like in the age, Raj also alluded to an age context where, the parents may say, no, you don't do arts at school, or you need to focus on the business or medicine, that type of thing. What we're seeing is from companies that are really growing. I did a little quick search in terms of some of the content creators like OHG Vibe from St. Lucia, giving a shout out. Boy Pedro, Digipreneur podcast that I think Kieran knows about out of Trinidad and Tobago. These are opportunities that the young people are already pursuing. So let me give you a little bit of the context in terms of some of the work that we have been doing. We're doing at CaribbeanGirlsHack, working very closely with Raj as our technical expert in terms of delivering the content for young women across the Caribbean. What was very important is to have the young women hands-on with different types of technology tools, solving whatever are the issues, right? So whether it's an advertising campaign, whether it's an environmental solution to address energy use, and having them pitch those ideas themselves. And I think some of what that has facilitated is these young women like Abriana, who spoke earlier today, who are now equipped and equipping themselves with, being in fora like this, actually saying, this is what we're looking for, this is what we need. And we need to also be very, very attuned to the fact of, entrepreneurial skills, which is what Shergon spoke about, in terms of his experience. I think we assume that entrepreneurship can be, it's something that everybody can learn and everybody can be, but making the jump from studying a technical area at university, right, to then thinking, how can I make a viable, right, Shergon, business solution, a company that is going to be earning, and that kind of, it's quite a leap. And it's one that I think we need to also, while students are still in school, so whether that's at the university level, that kind of thing, give them the kinds of opportunities and exposure for engagement, not just on fora like this, where they're speaking about what they're doing, but as Cleveland was talking about at the ITU, one fantastic program that we've been a part of is the Equals Her Digital Skills Program, which is a global partnership specifically focused on women and girls around the world. And two of the things I'd want to highlight from there, because I was also watching some earlier sessions where Tracy, Hackshaw, and other colleagues were speaking about the importance of mentorship, not just mentorship, but also sponsorship. Not just mentorship and sponsorship, but also internships. So because we've just as Rad was saying, the world has shifted from, okay, you're finished university, now you go and work, right, Shergon? You're actually using and thinking about how you can be either filling a gap in your society, in your economy. It's like so crucial and critical. And part of what I just like to close off by saying that I think is so crucial with all of these new eras of digital art design, in the creative sector, film, our TikTok platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Abriana tells me, okay, not YouTube, Nicole, we have to go to TikTok now, in terms of learning, in terms of, sharing and engaging our community. What we really cannot miss out on is that we need to do more than talk, which is what Tracy was saying in the session before. We need to be engaging youth in creating those programs themselves. And, it doesn't have to be a major, grant funded initiative. And the last thing that I would say is it always comes down to the finance, right, Shergon? It always is going to come down to the finance. So we cannot forget the importance. Why I'm saying about the mentorship, sponsorship, and internship is because by having that cross correlation with, you know, whether they're MNCs, regional companies, smaller companies across the whole Caribbean region. What we can be doing is showing them where they can be finding technical skills, companies, again, like Optronics, that they need to then be making investment in. Can't do any of this without financing.
Actions speak louder than words. Yes, that's very true.
And I think leading off from what Stefan says in terms of action speaking louder than words, I'm heading right back to Cleveland. And I know we named a bunch of projects, regional, international. So coming off of Nicole's point in terms of inclusion, I want to get to your ideas in terms of impact. So I know the ITU is very aggressive with its agenda in terms of closing that digital divide and ensuring that there's connectivity for everyone. I know Shogun mentioned the ITU Generation Connect. So my question to you, Cleveland, is how can we ensure that the benefits of internet-driven developments are impactful, inclusive, and reach marginalized and underrepresented groups such as youth in the Caribbean?
How can we ensure that that happens? Before answering that, one of the things the last speaker mentioned about the importance of finance and what Tracy said earlier, and speaking, walking the talk. I also want to put a somewhat slight take in saying that leadership is very important. We normally say that the fish rottens from the head, meaning that everything starts with the head. You can have as much desire, you could have whatever it is, you could even have all the money, but all the money and still not get the thing done. And also mentioned was good mentorship and participation and so forth. Those are critical. But I think to really ensure that it is impactful, therefore, we heard from the last speaker, which I'm endorsing, it needs, the youths have to be involved in all levels of the discussions. You must hear the voices of the youths, and you must be the one to say what are your needs that would make a difference. It's not good enough for all these, many of us in the rooms and in towers and so forth, who are not on the ground, when the youths are the foot soldiers who can represent what the people needs are. So for it to be impactful, you really have to understand what is on the ground, what the voices are, what the needs are, not have no scientific and international benchmark, etc., because it is not one cap fits all. It's different for the Caribbean area. I also think there's a need for it to be impactful, the need for collaboration. No one group, person, entity can do it alone. We need the private sector, we need the regulators, we need the NGOs, everybody must play their part. And then I'll just say one more, if I may. And we have to measure and what we are doing. We need the data in order to determine the extent to which, if at all, we are making a change. It's not good enough that we have only my friend there, Shogun, talking about his business and the success, and thanks for the kudos of the ITU and CTU in Generation Connect. But we need a lot more Shoguns in the region. How do we measure? We can't make reference to 2 or 3 innovative things in there. Do we have 100? Is that enough? What is our strategy to get another 100 or 1,000? How do they become developers and motivators and example for others? So to be impactful, I think you really need to have those components and to help reduce the digital divide. And many governments in the region, I believe, we have lovely strategies, we have lovely policies, we have lovely vision statements, we have lovely mission statements, we have all these lovely things. But really to be impactful, I don't know that we can identify true champions, specific champions that can be held accountable for their work and the delivery in some of these things. It's just not there. It's not there. We looking at even creating within the region a center of excellence, not only for skills, but some of the creative things that are being done. We need to have it tested and measured and research and development. When you're talking about 1% of research or sometimes less than 0.5% being allocated in a budget for research and development and all those things for youths, we are not serious. And I believe if we put those things together, I'm sure you'll get some more ideas as we go through. But leadership is critical in making this really happen. Over to you.
Yeah, so what really stood out to me when you spoke about collaboration and leadership. Yeah, and that's a very good segue into our next question for Shugan, actually, on collaboration. So Shugan, our question is, how can the government and regional organizations support and nurture the growth of youth-led startups like Obertronics Limited?
So, good question. And I think to answer that question, I will lean on a lot of the points that both Nicole and Cleveland brought up previously. And I think what comes to mind immediately is that Nicole said funding is very important. Like, it doesn't happen without funding. But some of the other important initiatives are also things like internships, having youth who are able to directly learn from the experience of persons who have been in the field and persons who have done, similar activities is very helpful. I think having that mentorship is also critical. Another thing that Nicole mentioned is that having the technical knowledge of technologies does not necessarily allow somebody to go out and make optimum use of that knowledge. So sometimes I think that one thing that is often overlooked is helping youth also develop their soft skills as well. Just simple things like improving communication, allowing them to present, giving them a space where they, get the ability to have that sort of training is critically important. I think those are just some of the things that have allowed me and Optronics to excel. I will say as well that one point that Cleveland did bring up about, the youth champions. I think it is also very important that, governments and agencies also highlight those youth champions, give them a sense of ownership so that they have some more accountability. But I also think that a big part of that also lies on us as youth, as ourselves, to have our own accountability for being those champions. A lot of times you have to fight your battles without recognition. Recognition will come in time. I don't think it's necessarily something that youth should go into thinking that I'm doing this work and nobody's recognizing me for it. I think they should be doing it, internally for themselves, have a bigger purpose than yourselves to do it. And I don't think that's something that, governments or any organization can give to the youth. So I urge our youth to take that own accountability for themselves and, really think about improving your region, improving the lives of others in that space. But I also think, governments can also support us, those youth that have been trying to, really highlight them. I will, commend ministers like the Honorable Mia Maudley. Recently, Keegan had an opportunity to meet her, and I've always admired her forward thinking. And just, giving youth entrepreneurs that opportunity really helps grow and solidify that inner drive in them, that what they're doing is having a positive impact on the region. And just continue to have initiatives like that, I think will definitely grow the opportunities for youth and accelerate the development that we see among youth in the ICTs in the region.
Thank you so much, Shugan. And I think right now it's an excellent jumping point right to Raj, because Shugan mentioned, just being a youth and all his struggles that he encountered so far. And I think something that a lot of people, you learn the digital skills and you're wondering what's next, how do I become a professional? What if I want to be a consultant? You're seeing a lot of people trying to do the work from home, remote life. They're done with the office for sure after COVID. So a question that I have for you, Raj, is how has RSC ensured that the digital skills program incorporate elements of innovation and entrepreneurship to safeguard regional youth development?
All right, excellent question there. And it actually segues exactly from what Shugan was saying, which is collaboration. Because, in our history, we started by building capacity and teaching and waiting for the success of the kids and the youth, and it wasn't happening because capacity building alone is not going to cut it. And we had to find strategies that would move beyond events, which is how the tech club model was formed. So students become part of a community, and like I think it was Shugan or Cleveland was talking about, the soft skills, because within the club, we have, each club is run by the kids, youth or whoever. I can't say kids anymore because we have a over 60 club right now, which is kind of cool. And they have to learn about all these issues and how to run the club and everything else. But with respect to success, what we did is we developed a sort of social business model for the clubs. So the first thing we started to do is through collaboration, and it started off with schools. So we offered our services at no cost to help build digital capacity in schools across the Caribbean. So that project got kick-started with our e-waste project, where we collect used computers. In the last 3 years, we donated over 3,000 computers to schools. And we built capacities in young people, and by teaching them how to repair, we went out as professional beggars to industries, and a huge support came from Republic Bank. When they did their transition, they donated 1,000 computers to us, used ones, and then that scaled. And these kids were repairing these machines and putting them back into the system. And initially, and for schools and NGOs, it's all free. But guess what? Off that developed a tech support model that they started to make money from. And we had further partners on like the Trinidad and Tobago Computer Society that really support us too. So you have professionals who would help these kids, and they would offer tech services for very small fees. So understand, you're not going to get a high-end expert, but for basic stuff, you could get it done at low fees. And that worked really well because we actually got to implement a program in Belize, and that is working really well, but where we have social entrepreneurship happening at the level of a school. So they offer services. Now that worked so good for us that, what else could we do? And we started to do event management, especially hybrid event management. And these kids are into photography, videography, implementing AI, which is kind of cool, in their video editing and all these things. And they offer that as a service. When COVID hit really hard schools, the amount of jobs these kids got for graduation ceremonies was like crazy. There were lots of jobs also with funerals. They didn't take those. I guess the parents didn't want them to go there. But graduation, if you see the amount of children just were doing online graduation services. And then the word got out, and then, we had bigger partners. We ran the PAHO Youth Conference in Jamaica. We ran the Caribbean Conference of Principals in St. Vincent in Barbados 2 weeks ago. And these were all done by club members. So we got professionals. CARICOM approached us recently, and we're doing video editing services for them for webinars. And we have professionals who would be mentors and offer their service at no cost. Then we have the youth who are trained, will initially be volunteers without any stipends. They get experience. Then they get a chance to become interns in jobs whilst simultaneously trying to start off their own business. We have a whole bunch of kids right now that have their own business offering remote tech support services, which is kind of cool. So that's one of the strategies we use. Of course, when you segue that with kind of competitions that we partnered with people like Nicole, I think people like Nicole, but organizations, and you offer competitions and hackathons and events, and these kids come up with great solutions, and then you give prizes, and then what happens after that? What we try to do is now form a bridge. So they say, here, how can you take your idea to the next level? And we don't lie to the kids and make them feel digital age, sit home, work from home, get rich doing nothing, because we got to build their dreams. They got to understand that it's not easy, but you're going to be passionate and joyful if you approach it the correct way. So those are some of the kind of things to do, but it's all hinged on partnership with schools, partnership with organization, partnership with you, or like Ministry of Digital Transformation. It's all based on partnership, because honestly, like Cleveland was saying, there are too many silos that is happening in the system in the Caribbean, and we really need to develop on that. I like what Cleveland say, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I just love how all the answers just fluid into each other. But to go back to a point that Shugon said, where he urged the youth to have a mindset of having a bigger purpose, I want to ask a question to Nicole. What are some attitudinal changes required to bridge, firstly, the gender divide and in the Caribbean? And what are some successful projects and partnerships that contributed to the youth development for women, girls, and boys that serve as models?
Okay, well, thanks. As you said, the questions are segueing directly into one another, because as Raj started talking about partnerships, I mean, right here in this panel, Caribbean Girls Hack is a partner with RSC Tech Clubs. We could not have done the training or the level of impact in terms of, you know, amazing virtual conferences run by young people doing different sessions, and also without the work of the support and the framework and the context of the ITU, you know. But picking up on that importance of partnerships, what I would really like us to entreat us to think about some more, right? And as Tracy said, we need to be coming back and talking about what we've done for the next CTU event. Is, you know, you just mentioned in terms of not working in silos, right? So there are a lot of youth that are generating ideas. We also have a lot of the incubators and accelerators that are generating ideas. We also have the program and big projects like, you know, Generation Connect and other projects like that, international projects. What can we do? We need a platform, or we need some sort of resource that we can go and say, hey, listen, there is an activity that's coming up. How can we get students or young people into, because we can do it so much virtually now, right? As Rat was speaking about, into engaged in an incubator or an accelerator activity, or it can actually be physical activities. Raj, as he said, did one of the conferences, I can't remember exactly which one because he has done so many, but most recently in the Caribbean region, he was doing one in Jamaica, and he reached back to CGH and said, look, these are some of the skills areas that we need. We need somebody who will do some camera, you know, work, some people who will be, you know, technical people that are solid people. That those kinds of experiences create invaluable teamwork in terms of young people learning the importance by doing, right, about being part of the work community and that network community. And also, that's something that we need to follow over into our incubator accelerator community as well, right? The other thing that I want to talk about in terms of attitudinal changes is that the reality is that we still have far to go. We still have far to go in terms of gender parity in ICT. We still have very far to go in terms of promoting inclusivity. Countries like Trinidad have significant achievements in terms of the numbers of women who have been, you know, in the STEM fields, both at the high school and at the university level. We need to be seeing that across the region, right? And some of how we can achieve some of that across the region is through networks. You know, one of the fundamental things that I believe as a co-founder of Caribbean Girls Hack, which is why I place so much importance on the mentorship, sponsorship, and internships. You can't be what you can't see. Okay? So the true reality of it is young women are getting out there, they're having an interest in tech skills or in applying tech skills in either the climate industry or in engineering or in the creative arts. If they're not seeing other women or a welcoming, you know, the intentional effort to engage young women in these kinds of, what if we want to call them non-traditional fields, we're putting up roadblocks ourselves. Again, I spoke about the mentorship and the role models. We really need to challenge the stereotypes, right? And we are a very patriarchal society across the entire Caribbean, especially in the work world. And so we really need to challenge those stereotypes. We need to have, you know, young men like Shurgon, you know, reaching out and saying, hey, you know, we're going to be, or other members of Generation Connect. Here, we're going to share what we're doing in Generation Connect. We want to also hear from you in terms of what you're doing on the ground in your countries. Because one of the things that I would say is that, you know, it's probably a function because of the fact that we are island states, you know, except for those on mainlands like Belize and Guyana, Suriname, that kind of thing. But information is very fragmented. And so it's a challenge to really know what's going on in many different places. A platform that I find that is fantastic is ICT Pulse, you know, by Michelle Marios. She shares so much information about what's actually going on in the sector. If we need to have platforms such as that, so that young students who have reached out to me who want to know how they can join Generation Connect, right, can get an opportunity to engage with it because it's the island context. You may have missed it when the call for, you know, participants went out, that kind of thing. I'm putting the word out to you, Shurgon and Cleveland. Let's see what we can do. You know, other colleagues in other sessions were talking about, yeah, you know, let's really bridge the gaps that we have through partnerships. We have a lot of international programs in addition to the regional programs. We just did a recent collaboration, so to speak, with a partner, DigiLearning UK, that provided not only an internship opportunity for one of our CGH young ladies, but also she was able to jump right in and actually be part of, you know, tech solution and a pitch competition, which is invaluable, building those kind of relationships, you know. So we need to do a lot more of that and really bring together the community of entities like Caribbean Science Foundation, RSC Tech Clubs, Women in Tech Caribbean, Caribbean Coding Academy in Grenada. So many different entities doing different elements, you know. But at the same time, we can be doing a lot more in terms of cross-pollination, in terms of really opening up opportunities, which this for students, which this virtual world has done, which, for example, Raj just spoke about the what's going to be upcoming with the students or the young people in the tech clubs in Trinidad, providing, you know, their expertise to the new upcoming tech clubs in Nigeria, you know. So the world is our oyster, was what I would throw to all of us, and we need to use the virtual connectivity that we have to our advantage, because the young people, they expect us to do it and they want to lead and do it. So let's not be blocking them.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. So at this moment, we kind of run out of time. So if we could just have one last question just to wrap up everything. And it's just in like one sentence or two sentences from each of the panelists. As we conclude the panel, what key takeaways or piece of advice would you give to each Caribbean youth to encourage them to seize the opportunities presented by the digital age? Yeah, in one sentence, each panelist, please.
Perhaps I can go by simply saying, don't give up. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Continue one step at a time. Don't give up. That would be my advice.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Love it.
I'll go next. I think I'll segue on what I said earlier. Have a purpose bigger than yourself. The Caribbean is not your oyster. The world is your oyster. Don't put any limitations on your dreams.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll go. The thing we tell our club members is right now, never before in the history of humanity has there ever been so much opportunity in a play field that's not level, but the levelest playing field ever. So we know what we tell them: get out of the bleachers and get onto the play field of life and become who you were designed to be. That's it.
I love that. Thank you,
I
Raj.
love that, Raj. Well, my encouragement really follows on exactly what my colleagues here have said, you know, is that you're not operating in the Caribbean, you're operating in the world, okay? So whether or not it's an online course you want to do, or, you know, you want to get into creating some Canva or other, you know, advertising products, actually just remember, a lot of the resources are free online, and connect. And what we also say in CGH, bring somebody else along. You're not doing it just for yourself. You're doing it also to open a door for somebody else who may be younger than you, or maybe in another part of your country or another part of the region.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And just can we get a round of applause for all of our speakers today? A heartfelt thanks to all the very experienced, very knowledgeable panelists. So over to you, Karan.
Thank you, Ms. Karan, and also Mr. Stefan Lewis for a wonderful panel. Just a warm round of applause for them. I think one of the big takeaways from that entire session is, you know, we've become somewhat of a launch culture and an event culture where these things happen, the events happen, but then what happens after that? That is something that we want to start moving away from, and we want to start building sustainable programs after the event and all the lights have gone away. So we have one final session as we wrap up day one, and it is a very important session with Ms. Anya Genjo, the Associate Program Expert and National and Regional IGF Initiatives Focal Point from the UN IGF Secretariat. Following her presentation, we're going to do a quick Q&A with her and myself, and then we will wrap up for day one. And she is ready to go.
Well, thank you very much for such a kind and quick announcement. Really some particular skills there. And first of all, good evening from Geneva. I assume it's good afternoon there at the Caribbean. It's a great pleasure to join you again for another successful Caribbean IGF, especially the Caribbean Youth IGF, which is a particular pleasure. And time really flies. I remember last year when you launched the first edition, I was really, as well as my colleagues, fascinated by the final outcome, which is, I know, a result of a hard work. I want to say a few words about the youth IGFs that operate within the Internet Governance Forum as a concept within the UN that exists, as you know, for almost 2 decades now actively, and it's a result of intensive preparations and negotiations through the World Summit on the Information Society processes. After almost 2 decades, we are now probably in one of the most critical moments when it comes about the decision making and when it comes about the future of everything that we as the community, every single person really that's involved in the concept of the IGF, regardless if it's at the national level, sub-regional, regional, is it with the youth involvement or through the global IGF, but certainly every person, every stakeholder individually and also organizations have contributed that we have such a powerful ecosystem today. And we are at a critical moment because in 2025, the next review process of the WSIS comes. And this is also the time when the IGF will be a subject of discussion and a review by the General Assembly of the United Nations. And we will learn what will be its future in terms of the formality. But in terms of the substance, in terms of the stamp that it already has put on the world generally, I would say from the perspective of the NRIs that we really speak about an interesting future that comes our way just because of the change that we're seeing. And one of the biggest changes that we have been witnessing, especially in the past couple of years, is the increased stakeholder engagement and investment in our sustainability. The stakeholder engagement means that we have new countries who are joining our processes. So within the, for example, concept of the national and regional IGF, in the past, I think 7-8 years, we have seen the number of IGF initiatives that almost tripled. And that's a really fascinating information, especially given the fact that it's we're speaking about organic initiatives, meaning in simple words, nobody institutionally is calling for any processes to be put in place in somewhere in the countries, but people just inspire other people. And I think when you do a good work, then thanks to the internet and associated services and tools, particularly surely the social media, the world just travels very quickly, and we are getting better connected and interconnected. And so that resulted today that we are having over 160 national, regional, and youth IGFs, which are officially recognized by the IGF Secretariat. We are now in communication with a number of other initiatives, and we do expect that by the end of this year, that number will grow, especially, which is so good, in the regions or in the parts of the world where we maybe do not have a good, I wouldn't say quality, but maybe quantity of the organized stakeholder engagement and involvement in the IGF. And I think that certainly will change. One of the things that I think the Caribbean IGF has strong legacy is the fact that you are most definitely the very first organically organized multi-stakeholder IGF initiatives. And I think that tomorrow you will open the 19th edition of your meeting, while the IGF will open its 18th edition very soon in October in Kyoto in Japan. And that's fascinating. And you know probably better also than the Secretariat how much of efforts took to inspire others around you to establish their more localized, focused on local community, especially national IGFs. And there are some wonderful national IGFs in the Caribbean region. But I said at the beginning, you're investing in sustainability, and that investment is particularly through investment in young people. Having the Youth Caribbean IGF was one of the, I think, greatest updates that the Secretariat and also the greater community received, just because that means that all our efforts that have been invested in these processes to, first of all, be established and to maintain them, do have their prosperous future. And that's thanks to the skilled, knowledgeable young people, what we call the next generation of experts and leaders that will take on your legacy or our legacy, everything that we are doing now, to hopefully a more advanced level. And given the nature of work of the currently recognized youth IGFs, including the Caribbean Youth IGF, I sincerely believe that that will happen. Just the previous panel was really interesting when colleagues were speaking about some concrete actions to engage young people, to empower them, to give them opportunities. I think somebody mentioned a very important word, which is investment in young people, not just financially speaking, certainly, but in their education, in their skilling, in developing their competences. And through the concept of the NRIs, through the, for example, the Caribbean IGF, with the Youth Caribbean IGF, we do see that many schools on internet governance are emerging, and that's a very effective capacity development initiative. When we were preparing for this session, I know that I received a guiding question to speak a little bit about now, when we have the form in place, what next? What do we do next? In terms of the IGF Secretariat and the Youth Caribbean IGF relationship, I have to say that for us, the most important part is that we have that we are seeing an established, well-organized, multi-stakeholder organizing committee. Now, the committee does not necessarily have to reflect just formality of young people by age, but it also should reflect really the strategies that are put in place to ensure that we do, as I said previously, invest in young people, and to make sure that we have them engaged in our current processes as equals. So not necessarily to treat them as newcomers, because it's the incredible potential that exists among the young people. And let's not forget that many of them are digital natives. Many of them are just growing up with the technologies that's part of their culture. And they understand it maybe in a little bit of a different, maybe even more profound way than us who switched to use technologies at some part of our lives and do have also history recorded on how our lives looked like before the internet and maybe meaningful access really came into our life and digitalized many of the services. And so I do think we need to include them as equals on all our roundtable discussions to certainly pass on the knowledge, but to also understand how they see the current issues and how they see especially the current potentials and how they can be harnessed. So having a group of stakeholders that are diversified across disciplines, ideally because of such a specific region that are diversified also across countries, or better yet, parts of the region that they're coming in and that they're working together, is extremely important. Someone on this previous panel mentioned leadership. Leadership is very important. Somebody needs to make sure that the process is facilitated in a way which adheres to our principles and values, in a way where everyone is treated with respect and equally, which is very important, and where we really stand firm for implementation and application of our great values and principles, which means the multi-stakeholder model, the bottom-up, consensus-based made decisions, openness, inclusion, transparency, and of course, non-commercial framework. Those are important aspects, and those principles usually have different application in concrete situations. That's why I think cooperation between these stakeholders who understand, who have experience, and the new generation that's coming is also important, and we need to find mechanisms to nurture this cooperation between young people and senior stakeholders. What we are seeing as a really effective mechanism across the NRIs that do exist, just like the Caribbean IGF for years, is meaningful integration of young people, meaning in the whole preparatory process of, for example, a particular national IGF or a regional IGF, or their intersessional activities, which are usually some form of capacity development initiatives or consultations. They're part of the team, so they feel equal and they stay there. And then later on, they take on and they continue the good work that's happening. And I do think that's important to invest. But in addition to this, let's say quality nature of investment, financial investment is important. And I think we should be really honest to each other. We need to make sure that young people have opportunity to participate in these important processes. Of course, enabling online participation is very important. Somewhere that's also a luxury in many parts of the world. I know in the region you have very specific challenges with respect to the infrastructure. You have small island developing states, which per se do face really very specific challenges, and they do require a special attention and I think specially focused, targeted investment. And there many young people live. So we need to make sure that we do invest, that we create opportunities such as fellowships, travel support, but also capacity development initiatives where young people can come, ideally participate in person in these types of meetings, network, connect to each other, meet each other. For example, I'll tell you that for years we've been working with a really large number of people. We're very, very privileged to be able to work with big number of stakeholders coming from different parts of the world for years. There are people who have been knowing each other for close to two decades. They never had opportunity to see each other. And that's unfortunately a pity, but it is a reality of a lack of resources or maybe even uneven distribution of resources. So I hope that long-term speaking, we can think about strategies where all stakeholders will support young people to be able to participate in important processes in person as much as that's possible, to network with others, and to make sure to create good cooperation, which long-term can lead to very good projects, long-term then leading to the internet that we all want to see, and certainly achieving the sustainable development. Just in closing, because I know we'll have a Q&A, the IGF Secretariat, but also other structures of the IGF, such as the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, now the leadership panel of the IGF, we're all very much focused on youth engagement as a form of capacity development, or better yet, as a form of us investing in our safe digital future. So throughout the year, for example, we facilitate what we call the youth track, which gathers the youth IGF coordinators and their communities from around the world to work on a specific set of activities. And the values there are, you are unpacking certainly the issues which are not easy to unpack, but the young people find them very important, and usually they're very aligned with the globally prioritized issues. But you're also creating a framework where especially young people, but also senior stakeholders can meet with each other. And so this year, in preparing for the 18th IGF in Kyoto, we have been working with young people since early beginning of this year on developing a capacity development initiative, which consists of 4 capacity development workshops implemented in cooperation with the regional IGFs. And so the upcoming one is just, I think, the second one in a row. It's coming in just 6 days, and it's actually nearby you, well, closer to you certainly than closer to us physically. It's in Cartagena in Colombia, hosted together with the Youth Latin American and the Caribbean IGF, focused on the concept of safe digital future and particular aspects that we are trying to look in, including the capacity development in cybersecurity. And then just, I think, 2 days after, we are going to the Asia Pacific Regional IGF, which is this year hosted in Brisbane in Australia, where we are having the 3rd capacity development workshop within that motto of Safe Digital Future, working with young people from around the world to understand the impact of cybersecurity and human rights. And then finally, we will then move in, I think, about 2 weeks after to the African IGF with the fourth workshop, which will be focused on artificial intelligence as a particular aspect of our security online. And all that then feeds into one big IGF 2023 Global Youth Summit, which is hosted at the 18th annual IGF meeting in Kyoto in Japan, where we are looking at all these aspects of safety online and the role young people can play for safer internet, safer digital policy, safer digital environment backed with good policies. And the goal is always, with all the workshops, with all the activities, we work with young people together really as equals, is to interconnect them with senior stakeholders. In this world of uncertainty and certainly maybe a pessimism, given especially the geopolitical tensions that are present in the past couple of years, but also the recent pandemic and many of the insecurities around that. The good thing is, I think, and really encouraging, is that there is a really nice awareness and willingness from the current generation of experts and leaders in some domains, in some aspects, to work closely with young people and to engage them in their processes. And that's really reflected through the IGS, for example, UTECH, where you will see that there will be some high-level senior experts who will be working with young people through dialogue to understand what are the issues and particularly to focus on good actions forward. I hope that in our endeavor to implement this project that I've just mentioned, we can have a number of young people coming from the Caribbean region. And in that sense, I use this opportunity to invite all of you to connect with us. Regardless if you are a young person or a more senior stakeholders, every voice is important to ensure that the next generation of experts and leaders is equipped to be able to lead after this current generation has to retire. And in that sense, hopefully, there will be, again, underlying that there will be willingness from those that can to support young people from the Caribbean region to be able to join us in Kyoto in person. There is a value of participating in person. I'm sure you know it better than me today because you are there in the room. There's a value where you connect with other peers, you get motivated, energies collide, and good work arises from it. And hopefully we will have some representatives in Kyoto to work further with them. And the IGF Secretariat hopes that maybe next year, during the next Caribbean IGF, we could also be present and participate in person together with you, because I think it's a region which, as I said at the beginning, fights specific challenges, but also a region that really inspires by its resilience and by creativity and innovative ideas to make sure that our online environment really is a place we all want it to be. Sorry for a little bit of maybe longer speech, but it's very important for us to send a couple of these messages, and I am looking forward to hear from you and certainly to learn from today, but also tomorrow and the day after, of all the good discussions that you will have given your ambitious agenda. Thank you.
Now, before we take two questions, I want to let everybody know in the chat that the evaluation survey has been posted in the Zoom chat. So go and click the link, go fill it out. Let us know how day one went for you. And also, it's accessible by the CYIGF event page, all right? So, Ms. Anya, two quick questions, right? Can the youth be the ones to apply directly to be an NRI, or does this have to be done through an existing IGF like CYIGF?
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. The response is yes. We have a couple of different models which arise organically from the community, and one of the model is that you have the independently organized youth IGFs. So I'll put it in a very simple terms. There are initiatives where the youth IGFs are independent in terms of that they have their own standalone multi-stakeholder organizing committee. The committee, just as for the national and regional IGFs, is composed of stakeholders coming from at the least three different stakeholder groups. Ideally, that's 4. Before you ask me, I'll preempt. I know that sometimes when it comes about the youth IGFs, especially if the committee is completely composed of young people, we can speak about students, and students are not necessarily classified in the stakeholder groups. They're not still on the level of the maybe young professionals. So in that sense, we are looking holistically at the background. So it's very important for us that there's a diversity of background represented on the organizing committee. So in other words, there's a value if you have, for example, students of social sciences, but also future engineers, economists, anthropologists, and so on. So that's something that's important to us. But of course, there are models where we have youth IGFs integrated into the existing national or regional IGFs. And here the internal setup can be different, but essentially it comes to the point that the organizing committee of the existing national or regional IGFs also runs a separate track or an integrated track for young people, where young people are also consulted through the public call for inputs about the issues that are of their interest. They are involved in preparing the sessions or any other types of activities. Sometimes there are capacity development activities happening, so not everything is about the panels and speeches. So there are those activities, but there are those models. Regardless what you decide to be your model, I think it's critical that there is a good cooperation between the young people, especially in the case you want to have a separate independent youth IGF in addition to these existing Caribbean IGF, that there is a good cooperation, close cooperation between the two processes, and that we do not put young people in silos. There needs to be interaction between senior experts, senior stakeholders, and young people who are willing to be our agents of change in this Internet Governance Forum ecosystem. I hope this responds, but of course, always at your disposal to share more details.
No, that was spot on. Last question. What would you say are 2 low-hanging fruits that our CYIGF could target to get some quick wins and build some momentum?
But I know it's quickly for you to ask, but it's not necessarily quickly for me to respond. I think I said it at the beginning. I think you have an incredible asset, an incredible potential in your community already. Having 2 decades of experience in how to organize the Internet Governance Forum process in a region that is so diversified, that is certainly geographically not united, but you have also many of the island countries. That's an excellent potential, and learning on those lessons learned, or building on the lessons learned, but also working with the existing expertise, that's something that I think is the greatest asset of your region. And it's something that other regions may not have. So I think that the best is really to focus on that, to focus on what you have and then build on that. And in addition to that, I have to say that the experience of the IGF Secretariat is that many of the young people already in the region are not just active, but they're really making concrete changes. It's incredible the competences that they have, the way they're thinking, which is very innovative. And sometimes you can't teach people how to think. That's probably the hardest thing. They already know that, how to use technology, how to deploy it, how to navigate its use for the benefit of everyone. That's something that I think the Caribbean IGF is really rich in terms of the potential. And just the investment is needed to gather those people, to put them together, ideally physically, really in one place, like what you're doing today, to get to know each other. And I think then when you have a lot of great ideas, great minds in one place, then just imagine all the changes that they can do. So I do think you're a very lucky region in the sense of the potentials that already exist.
Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, can we get a round of applause for Ms. Andia Genjo? Well, everybody, day one is coming to a close, and we want to have the closing remarks from Ms. Nia Nanan, the Youth Envoy of the CTU, and Mr. Tariq Mohammed of the CYIGF.
Thank you, Karen. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nia Nanan, Senior Research Analyst at the CTU Secretariat and Youth Envoy Focal Point. So we have come to the end of day one for CIGF and the end of our second Caribbean Youth Internet Governance. And I have to say, I think we ended the day with a bang. You don't think, Tariq?
Yes, definitely.
I think so. So congratulations to the Caribbean Youth Organizing Committee. I would like to say thank you to our speakers, our moderators, our presenters who took the time to be with us here today. I think for a very ambitious, packed agenda we had in the afternoon, we got quite a bit done. Our first discussion on leveraging ICTs for Caribbean youth development ahead of the Global Digital Compact raised a lot of ideas of the role of youth in pushing the agenda of the GDC and the serious role youth can play in terms of sustainabilities, opportunities for youth for advocacy and to partner with active IOs and multilateral organizations to engage in what was put as building back better. There were a lot of calls for the establishment of a mentorship network for youth, and we would like to thank Mr. Tracy Hackshaw for being our first volunteer in establishing that network, and we will definitely be following up with our stakeholders for this call for action. Mr. Xavier Jhon-Clair would have taken us through the advantages of AI and opportunities available for Caribbean youth, and then we dived right into another discussion on AI governance, which really spoke to the balance between the ethical use of AI with innovation, and to a certain degree, how these systems can be self-monitoring and the need to repurpose existing frameworks. And that discussion led into the inherent biases in AI systems, and you need to be cognizant of it, particularly because of the data that's used to train AI language models. Our last panel really was a comprehensive, robust discussion on opportunities for regional youth development that gave tangible steps on available pathways for Caribbean youth. I'd like to commend the work of Optronics and Mr. Shurgan for working to bridge the technical gap he identified as existing in the Caribbean region and trying to bridge the gap through STEM training in a sustainable manner that helps build the digital economy while simultaneously giving back to his Caribbean counterparts. We also heard about initiatives, youth initiatives from the ITU, from Mrs. Nicole Pitter-Patterson, and from Restore I Sense I Can. And Raj really spoke about the emerging tech being disruptive and pivoting that disruption as an opportunity for change and innovation to drive empowerment. And what I thought was a key takeaway was he spoke about key factors to position youth to leverage technology for development opportunities, and those were specifically awareness, training, and partnerships. And lastly, we'd like to thank Anya from UN IGF Secretariat, who really gave our organizing committee a step-by-step action plan on how to move forward with establishing the CYIGF as a registered NRI. And lastly, but not least, of course, I'd like to thank the Youth Organizing Committee, who really put a lot of effort into owning this second CYIGF and making it happen. And they did. I think it's admirable that the work they put in to pull this off.
Nia gave an excellent summary of everything that's happened today. So I think that this session was very packed and well conducted. We had 3 presentations and 3 panel discussions. What I really enjoyed about the panels, which were all moderated by youth, was the level of care and thought that each of these moderators went into in ensuring that this was a conversation. This is a forum where we get to discuss and build off of each other's ideas. On behalf of the youth, I'd like to thank all of the speakers today for coming out, taking your time and addressing us. Everyone in the chat who posted a number of resources, especially in that first discussion. I'd also like to finally thank the CTU for giving us this opportunity once again to host this second ever Caribbean Youth Internet Governance Forum, which we planned through their support, their guidance, and really and truly, without their support and guidance from SG, NIA, the CYIGF Planning Committee, they really and truly helped bring this together, ensure that we have the speakers, flush out the ideas that we had, and make today a reality. So on behalf of the youth, I'd like to thank you all for having me, and I look forward to doing this again and being here for the rest of the CYIGF. Thanks so much.
Back to you.
All right, so that brings to a close day one. How are we feeling so far in the room? Good. Excited for tomorrow? Wonderful. Let us know in the chat how you guys enjoyed day one and the discussions. Let us know some of the key points that you guys liked that we're going to capture. We're going to capture that information in the chat. So we are going to be back again tomorrow with a fun-filled packed day with more discussions. And we will see you tomorrow, everybody.